No, I don't think that's a pro at all.
That's definitely a pro. That might even be someone from EU.
I mean, nothing to watch. Everyone can do this nowadays. So this doesn't really tell me a lot.
So it's looking like a pro. Just like I can tell by the way they built the box around it. Like they made a huge space.
I mean, yeah, you can tell by the fastest edits, but the thing is, I feel like most pros would not do this in a real game. They'll be focused, not messing around.
Could be both, could be pro player, could be not pro.
Yeah, on the... Okay, nice snipe.
Good shot.
He's good at pressuring as well. Always has clear... Yeah, that's definitely a pro. That might even be someone from EU, by the way they were like handling that fight.
I will say it was a pro player.
Yeah, that's a pro.
This might be like a Vico or someone like that. Okay, it's Vino. Nice. Yeah, he looked good. He looked good enough.
No one really carries snipers and solos and just W keys with it like that much, except for Veno.
It was Vino.
If I'm gonna be honest, I thought of that exact player when I was watching this. That's the skin he uses a lot of the time. Okay, let's see. This is a 1v1. Switching his pickaxe and his gun back and forth.
No one really has their mouse button 5 and 4, and as well as their middle mouse button on like their guns.
I mean, the skin and the guns are not really from a pro, I'd say.
I mean, maybe it's like just some, not like tier 1 pro.
No, I don't think that's a pro at all.
When you look at the 90s, he's like more wobbly as well as his aim, so I don't think it's a pro.
Like the mouse control is not on point, I'd say. Oh, it's 11.
Who is this? 11 2K. Oh my god. Yo, 11, bro.
That was 11.
I'm sorry, Levin. Oh no. I either had in mind like a caster or like some pro that quit like ages ago. Okay. So they're carrying floppers, medkits. That's a pro.
Good aim as well. 200 above and 3 kills. Okay. Let's see, he's playing some heal off.
Okay, so this guy's... he's got a good loadout. This is probably from a... Wait, this is from duos.
Overall, the movement and the heal off, he played really good. He did like everything perfect. He even cancelled the flopper to get the 10 HP.
Oh, I know this clip. I was playing on this game. I know who this is.
Oh wait. Wait, I watched this live. Is this not Kami? I think this is Kami.
I would say that's a pro.
So that's definitely gotta be a pro.
I'd say it's a pro, to be honest. Yeah, Kami.
Oh yeah, that was solo clutch from the last game.
Yes. Yo, my memory's actually crazy. I wasn't even watching this game from his perspective. I was watching from someone else, and they said like, "Oh yeah, it's Kami that won."
If I would have gotten that wrong, I would have been sad. Guessing the pros was actually like easier than I thought it would be.
When you play the game for this long, you can tell how good someone is.
The Flowberry is one of the best mobility items in Chapter 5 Season 1, and today I'll show you how to utilize it in FNCS. Starting with number 1, the Flowberry Crash Pad. Perfect for rotating long distances in mid-game, the combination of the Flowberry's low gravity effect and a crash pad is a really effective trick to make your way into the zone. We've seen many different teams show us some, let's say, interesting ways to hop on the pad. However, the best way to avoid having egg or Flowberry on your face is to throw the crash pad down in the corner of an edited cone, then reset the cone to use it as a ramp to get on the crash pad. That way, you never have to deal with the awkward run back after mistiming the jump. Have you ever felt like the launch pads around the map just don't seem to take you far enough? Try combining the Flowberry effect with the pad and look at the height you get now. Mr. Savage did this in last weekend's Open Qualifier, and the reason why he loves it is that it gives him so much more height, distance, and visibility across more of the map. Having the ability to cover more distance in early game here allows them to be way more flexible with their positioning and can be applied to any lobby in Fortnite. Mongrel also had a go at it, but it took him a couple of tries. But we'll let him off, he just got back into competitive. The Grapple Blade is an excellent mobility item, and using it on its own is hugely popular amongst competitive and casual players alike. But as you can probably guess by now, it can be buffed by combining it with a Flowberry or Flowberry Fizz. Last weekend, we saw one of the best teams in Europe, Cami and Seti, using this combination so well that it actually resulted in them taking high ground in this endgame. The increased height and momentum that they get from the low gravity effect of the Flowberry means that once they grapple onto the front side of this ninth zone, they simply float up and claim height for themselves, which actually makes them win this game. Not bad for a small jar of Fizz. Well, it's not actually that small, it's like half the size of the character.
I'm so exhausted, I needed the energy, needed to pick me up. I'm in your movie, but this is my cinema. I got the power, I'm built to devour. Anyone coming against me, a tower. I don't care in the pressure. Some of y'all leaving here in the stretcher. Took my time to go and get better. I was reading in the red letters. Ay. Energy, energy, energy. Honey, that energy, energy. Energy, energy, energy. Honey, that. Been here, done that. Wanna know what we came for? Been here, done that. Wanna know what we came for? Energy, energy, energy. Honey, that energy, energy. Energy, energy, energy. I need that energy, energy.
Hello, welcome to day 2 of the FNCS semi-finals. We have 2 more days of action before we find out who will be competing in next weekend's grand finals, the first grand finals of the majors this year. My name is Frankie Ward and I am not alone as always. They wouldn't do that to me and they wouldn't do that to you, don't worry. I'm going to be joined by Levin and Mini Miner on the desk, so let's bring in the boys. Oh, I was expecting a nice casual walk-in, Levin, but I like the eyebrow raise. That was good. Have you been working on that?
I have, you know, I'm trying to be a bit more smooth nowadays. I think I lost it. I look back a couple years ago, I was a lot smoother, so I'm trying to bring it back.
Never, man. You're like the smoothest man I've met in esports, and I've met Adam Savage. Meanwhile, Mini Miner, I was really enjoying your video leading into the show. You were sassing out Mongrel. How dare you?
Yeah, he just needs to work on a few things. You know, if he ever needs any tips, just hit me up, mate. Just let me know. I always get hit up for coaching, so if he ever wants to, then he knows where I am.
Don't worry, Mongrel. Mini came to my stream and watched me playing Zero Builds, and he was also sassing me out. This man is on something. I'm going to actually have to watch him playing Fortnite at some point. Let's talk about what happened, though, in yesterday's lower bracket, because we brought you the upper bracket action on this stream. But there were 200 duos in the lobby, I believe. So quite a lot was going on. And as you can see there, boys, a familiar number of players, in fact, particularly Marco and Firebro with 2 victory royales to their name, Mini.
Yeah, 2 victory rounds for those guys. Of course, we see a lot of names that we would have maybe expected to be in the upper bracket already. We see, of course, XSwee's one of the names that we've seen so much throughout the EU scene. Sky and Scroll as well, who made their way through here, 11. So a few names on here that we're definitely excited to take a look at today.
100%, man. A lot of these guys, like you said, just should have been in the upper bracket anyway. But I think the name that stands out the most in that regard for me has to be Trulex and Chicho at number 10. This is a team that is one of the best teams in EU, you'd say, on most days, right? Especially after their global championship performance at the end of last year. These guys were on everybody's radar as a top team. And so for them to not have even been in the upper bracket, I think was a big blunder on their part, you'd say.
Yeah, I think so. And I think a lot of that was down to drop spots choices and a few off-spawn difficulties that they've had. Even yesterday, I was watching some of their games. It just seemed to change drop spots almost every single game. And it seems like now they've settled with Hazy Hillside. They're going to be contesting Bevies and Pablo, who, of course, also made it through that lower bracket. So I'm going to be intrigued as to how this is going to go here, Levin. A lot of beef on Twitter, it seemed like, before the competition today. A little bit of back and forth between those guys. They're fighting over a POI right now that seems like it's not performing and it's not generating results, because the 2 teams that were landing at Hazy Hillside yesterday got 41st and 47th. So it seems like they're fighting over nothing right now. I think for one of these guys to qualify, it just takes a win. And for Trulex and Chicho at the moment, I'm not sure we're going to see that. We'll have to wait and see that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. For people who maybe don't know much about Trulex historically, he has always been an incredibly stubborn off-spawn player. Like, he will claim a drop and believe it is his divine right to have that spot uncontested, and anyone that gets in his way is nothing but an enemy. So good luck to Pablo Ingu and Bevies. And again, they're a team who I've seen them fighting a lot at Hazy Hillside this season, and it hasn't always reaped the rewards. So that's going to be an interesting battle that we follow throughout today.
I'm looking forward to it for sure. Let's take another look at the standings, because we haven't actually taken a look at page 2, because we do have quite a few spots that were grabbed by the lower bracket yesterday. So we're going to see these names in the upper bracket today. Misha and Tino, definitely another duo who performed very well last year. I mean, the Last Chance Major is where they really came to my attention, Levin, and they were taking the lobby by storm yesterday too.
Yeah, I think they took the whole Fortnite world by storm with some of the tricks and the tactics they were pulling out of their sleeves. I think the best way I describe this duo now, Mini Miner, is they're sort of like Fortnite psychologists, right? You know, they really have a great understanding of their opponent's behaviors, and they're able to take advantage of that. They might not be doing all that sort of landing at different spot stuff that they were doing last year, but they are always going to be making those sneaky plays, getting under your skin and doing everything in their power to make sure they have their mental edge over you.
Yeah, they don't rush, do they? They don't tend to rush things when they're playing the game, particularly when they're going for that island. I've seen them going up for that Rift Island. They haven't actually been claiming it. They've sort of gone all the way up there, zip-lined up, and just waited. Not even in the claiming area. Just waited for another team to come up and maybe just pounce. We've seen it with those guys with the caches as well. We've seen them actually just claiming their cache, getting all the loot that they need, and then just sitting above the cache, waiting for another team to come on through. Really, really intrigued as to how well they're going to do today, because they're landing at Pleasant Piazza, and they said on socials they're going to be W keying for that forecast tower every single game. So look out for that fight today. And that forecast tower, we talked about it a little bit yesterday. It's so valuable for these teams. In fact, across all regions, 12 victory royales out of the 30 games came from teams that did have that forecast tower activated. So you can see why they're really wanting it.
I really want to see them on that island today, just to see that cheeky, sneaky VP behavior and to see if they actually managed to pull something off, because it's kind of a mystery to me as to why they would do that. We have got so many duos who are going to be vying, though, for those all-important victory royales today, because if you do get a victory royale, you get a pass straight through to the grand finals. You don't need to play any more games today. You can relax, chill, and watch your enemies fight it out. And as you can see, there's one duo that played 10 games yesterday and got a whopping 3 victory royales. And Levin, I know you did a bit of VOD review of these guys.
Yeah, absolutely, right? In a day where the wins are all that really matters, of course, with Tricks and Snack winning so many in the lower bracket yesterday, I was like, okay, how are they doing this? And is this going to be something that they can bring to the lobbies today? After watching their games, you could definitely see the difference between the lower bracket and the upper bracket. The lower bracket games, a lot less stacked, right? And so I think there's a lot of things about their game that was successful yesterday that may not translate to today. I think they'll find it a bit harder to maneuver around the map and get to end games as stacked as they were getting to end games yesterday. But I think they'll still have a good shot of making some waves for sure.
Yeah, and today they're contested by Andalex and Sata all the way down to that south side of the map. So if they do make it off spawn, which is going to be a tough battle, I'm sure, at that little house down there, if they do make it to that end game, they're going to need to make it count like they did yesterday, because they're not going to have those extra few games, those extra off spawn chances, if you like, to make it to those later stage of the game, the end game. So it's going to be important for these guys to really make it happen when it matters.
We'll see them tested very soon, but before we can get the games underway, we've still got a bit more admin to do, including one of my favourite parts of the show, to be perfectly honest with you, checking in with Takata and Jacob PR, because I want to find out, boys, what was your favourite part of day one?
Thanks, Frankie. Look, yesterday you asked us to predict who we thought was going to win a match, and we said Merstash Malabuka. What we didn't know, though, is that they were going to make history. 3 reboots, and in the same match, turning it around to an 11 Elim victory royale, making the comeback of the century. But Jacob, I want to know, who do you think is going to shine today?
It's going to be hard to outshine what Malabuka and Merstash were able to do, and it's just the stages of the game in which those reboots came off was just incredible. But I got my eyes on Perhawa and Vexy. Back-to-back second-place finishes. Well, maybe not back-to-back, but 2 second-place finishes on the day. They have to be hurting, but at least, you know, they have the blueprint down. They just need to be able to execute on it.
Look, I'm on the same boat, Jacob. We have a pretty good history now when we make the same prediction, so we'll have to see if that happens. But let's go back to Frankie, Levin, and Minnie.
Thank you very much, guys. We will catch you in a moment to cast all the action. Before then, though, let's think back to the upper bracket action yesterday. The boys just gave us a handy recap, but we haven't spoken yet about Veno and Tayson. And this was a duo that really intrigued me when I heard that they got together. And yesterday, they didn't have the strongest start. But you know what, Minnie? As the games went on, they looked closer and closer to getting that #1 spot.
Yeah, they seemed a little bit disjointed yesterday. Of course, 2 players that everyone should know by now. We know all about Veno, of course, being such a fragging power. Of course, such a great brain of the game as well. And of course, speaking of great brains, Tayson, multi-time FNCS champion. He knows exactly how to play these end games. And even the mid games just seem like a little bit disjointedness. Off spawn, they had a few issues yesterday as well, Levin. And for me, it's just like, they tried to play together in certain end games. It seemed like when they had the most success was when Tayson was leading in that IGL role. It seemed like that was the best move for them. I don't know, though. I'm gonna be looking at this duo particularly closely today, because I want to see them thrive, and we know they can.
Yeah, I think disjointed is a great way to sum up a lot of what we've seen from them this season. There's no doubt they are great players, 2 of the best players Fortnite's ever seen, but they're both different in sort of their approach leading up to an FNCS finals. Historically, Veno's always been a player that needs a bit more practice, right? He wants to be scrimming non-stop leading up to a final. The season where he had the historic run with Queasy, they were scrimming probably more than anybody else in the region, and it paid off come final time. Tayson, on the other hand, a bit different. He's, you know, considered a GOAT by many, but he doesn't actually really practice much, right? He just sort of shows up to finals and does incredibly well, and it works for him, right? The results are there, but that's a clash, right? Tayson maybe hasn't been quite on that same page as Veno, and I think it's been affecting them as a duo. The key thing, looking at some of the games from yesterday, is I don't think there's anything major, you know? Let's not act like they don't know how to play the game. Of course they do, it's Veno and Tayson, but there's some small things I think have been getting in the way from them, and I think as soon as they can harmonize, get on the same page, the results will start to show.
Can I ask a cheeky question, Levin? Do they have a coach at the moment?
Yes, they do. They do, coached by BloodX.
BloodX. Okay. Maybe BloodX needs to have some words and get them on the same page. I mean, they've got the best coach in the game. So I'm sure if they get through to those grand finals, we're going to see some excellent performances from them. And we had excellent performances from Perhawa and Vexy yesterday. They came so close to taking not 1 but 2 victory royales in Helof's Minnie. It must have been gutting.
Yeah, I think they were very gutted. I mean, they seemed to just play every single one of those games out really, really well. They had 2 second places, as you mentioned, and they just seemed to play the low ground layers really, really well. We saw them have med kits at the end of the game. We saw them trying to go for the heal off. We saw them trying to take out the last player to close out the game, and nothing quite seemed to be clicking. For these guys today, I mean, I guess the advice that I have for them, and the thing they need to improve on, is just try and find more med kits in the end games. It just ran out a little bit too soon, and it's just, I don't know. We're going to see what they do today. They're uncontested today as well, so they can make those similar moves for end games. Just find more medkits, guys.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Because you look at the games and there wasn't really much to criticize. I think fundamentally everything was really spot on and the setups were definitely there. I almost feel bad saying, yeah, just hope you find more med kits. I think maybe in some situations, trying to be a bit more proactive and take more control and just actually like thin the lobby out yourself. I think in these kind of lobbies, what we're seeing is that everybody's a lot more passive because everybody's trying to play for their med kits. They know that's what they want. And so there was a couple times where they probably, you know, topped out the rest of their mats on mid ground and then look to heal off, where maybe you actually just say, take control a lower bit. Maybe, you know, instead of just trying to stay in the mix and then use your med kits, actually take control of one of the higher or lower layers and see what you can get from there. Ultimately though, Frankie, I don't think they need to change much. They are a very good duo and they deserved a win yesterday, and I think they'll get one today.
Even if they don't get a win today, because they have shown so much consistency, if they are able to play well today and then we see them in the upper bracket tomorrow, I am sure they have got what it takes to make the grand finals. That's Frankie Ward, guarantee. We're going to move on though to one final duo to chat more about, and that is Janice and Flixie. Janice doesn't really need an introduction. Flixie though, got to see him playing last season, but I've been so surprised actually by the numbers he's been putting up so far. I know 14 Olymps doesn't sound that great. They had a bit of a tough ending to yesterday, but actually Flixie had some impressive displays yesterday, should we say, Mini Minor?
Yeah, he did, and he's one of those sort of players that has been on the come up, you could say. Had a good performance with Gripey back then in Chapter 4 Season 2, so he definitely has the makings of a solid player, and now alongside Janice, of course, a multi-time FNCS champion as well. It's someone that I think this is a duo that could really work out quite well. I think at the moment, they're trying to look for height a lot. They're trying to develop that height dynamic, and more often than not, it is actually paying off for them. It's just trying to close out the game at the moment for this team, trying to make sure that they can find those extra final few eliminations, because this is a duo that have so much potential as well. And today, I think they're going to be no different. I'm going to say this is going to be a duo we are going to see get a victory royale today on height. I'm not going to say a mini-minor guarantee because we're over that now. We're just going to say it's going to happen.
That doesn't sound like you're confident, Vinny.
I think you'd be right to say that. You know, you look at the few teams that have the potential to take height, they're definitely one of them. It's been a theme for them throughout this season. I disagree with you on one thing slightly, and I think with Flixie, I don't think he's in any way up and coming. I think he's been here, right? We've seen Flixie the past year, and we know what he is as a quantity, and I think Janice has definitely helped to enhance that. I think they're a really good combination. Probably a dark horse team in general, so I definitely think we'll see them come grand finals, and I'm with you, Minnie. I think they'll pick up a win today as well.
Levin, how many FNCS grand finals has Flixie won?
He hasn't won any, unfortunately.
And how many has Janice won?
He's won quite a few, to be fair, quite a lot, yeah.
I rest my case. That's all I'm saying. Before we do go into game number, my case was that Janice is a very well-known, experienced player, and Flixie, we haven't seen him achieve his full potential yet. But we started to see him get in there last year, and I think we're going to see him get there this year now that he's got that experienced leader in Janice on his side. That's all I'm saying. But are you saying that they are the duo you most expect to get a victory royale tonight? Levin, I'll start with you.
Ooh, I don't know if I'd say most expect. I think there's still a couple names in there that you'd maybe look at and go, I'd give them a bit more of an edge, but they are definitely a team I think is highly likely.
Yeah, I agree. I do think they'll get a win, though. I think it'll be on height. And yeah, I think Cammy and Seti, teams like that we haven't mentioned today, they're definitely a duo that will get a win today as well. It's just all about timing for those guys.
Great. Who's got the keys to the battle bus? No. Oh, well, this is slightly awkward. Was it my job? Okay, fine. But well, hopefully Jacob PR and Takata got a spare because we need to kick off game number 1.
Well, I gotta go ahead and continue looking for those keys, Frankie. I don't have them on me either, so the game isn't ready just yet. So let's talk a little bit more about what we're going to see, Takata. 5 games yesterday. All 5 of those games were won by new teams, but the keys have been found. The bus driver is ready, and so is the game. Let's get right into the action.
Fresh start for a lot of the duos. Today, there's 20 that competed in the upper bracket yesterday and 30 duos coming straight in from the lower bracket. Now, with that chance, that opportunity to qualify directly to the grand finals. But all they need, Jacob, is a victory royale.
Yeah, and yesterday showed us that experience is key, but sometimes it's new duos. Getting that fresh start brings a different look to the game plan, and that's where a lot of the teams found success. But 4 of those 5 teams have played in these style rounds before, so there's a lot of experience going around the lobby, and that's why I look at a fight just like this, Hazy Hillside, and I use fight with like air quotes over here on my side of things, just because these guys are both experienced teams. Bevy and Pablo versus Trulex and Chicho. Even though this is an off-spawn battle, it is contested. They may not even contest each other in terms of engaging in that actual fight. They know how important the stakes are today and how crucial it is to win a game and advance to the grand finals and not have to go through upper or lower bracket round 3 tomorrow.
Look, there is experience, but there's also 8 duos that are looking to compete in their first FNCS finals that qualified up from the lower bracket yesterday. So they will have to show what they're made of and see if they've put in the work to make it happen.
Every season, I'm kind of looking for that player to rise to the occasion. It happens on almost every single region. But I said Pablo and Bevy might be looking for the fight, but Trulex and Chicho are. They go ahead, land that first shot, but it's actually a turn. They're the ones who get taken down. 2 angles from Bevy and Pablo. Great defensive nature as well. They're able to take that one with ease.
This is huge for Pablo and Bevies. They now have all of Hazy Hillside alongside the boost from the drones in the area to loot up everything that they need to have a powerful endgame. But at Ritzy, Rivera, Vision, Marco, they have more work to do.
Yeah, they're experts as well, though. They've been in this situation before. They had 2 victory royales in the lower bracket yesterday. Different style of lobby, I will say. A little bit more open format instead of a closed lobby, but at least they've shown that they can win games against some of the best players in the region. They just got to be able to do it within these next 5 games and not get down on themselves mentally if things don't work out.
Looking back at Janice now. Has got himself into an early game engagement as well. Does have the elevation advantage here. 41 materials as well to work with, so they're not in complete danger currently. Already have an Elam on the board as well, but do they want more is the question.
Like, of course, they want to be able to take advantage of these early game fights where they got that damage. You see Flixie with another angle. As soon as Janice closes the distance, he said, nah, let's disengage. Let's keep looting up. There is a ton to gather here towards Reckless Railways, including that NPC with the Hyper SMG Mythic, along with the medallion that'll heal you 2 shield every second up until 50 shield total. And this is a team we talked about, Perhawa and Vexy, going up against Tino and Uguay, formerly known as Chapix, an FNCS champion of the Great. We haven't seen a ton of him recently, but I'm looking for him to kind of go back to the form in which earned him the respect, which earned him those FNCS titles, and this is the start of his journey.
2-time FNCS champ. You said it yourself. We'll see what it takes to become one here, but it's difficult to be in this situation for both duos being so far up north. If the zones continue to pull south, it can make it incredibly difficult to get your rotate through. You can get staggered and it kind of continues going throughout the rest of the match. So you really want to finish these engagements as quickly as possible.
Yeah, especially since you already see towards Classy Courts, there's another team hearing all this action, getting a little nosy, seeing what's going on. Is this something I can take part in? And as this fight continues, Perhawa and Vexy looking like they're getting a little dry on those materials, and they can't even go over to farm more, so they're kind of stuck in this position, waiting for both Tino and Uguay to kind of drop down, get into their hands, or that blessing of a third party who's creeping so close. But even them, they're getting threatened by a 4th party right behind them towards Classy Courts.
The issue here for Perhawa and Vexy is they are getting a lot of pressure applied to them from Uguay and his duo partner with the good amount of ammunition, which is making them run out of materials, and eventually they're just not going to be able to build. But with the third party coming through, it looks like Perhawa and Vexy have been saved.
Yeah, that blessing in disguise. Sometimes you don't know how bad you want a third party to come in and just cause so much distraction until it happens. Marius and Sangil trying to chase down what they think is a solo, and you got to manage it to be so. There's already 1 elimination onto Marius, a good amount of damage, but they go ahead and let that player escape, because right now you see right in front of them the forecast tower. This is so impactful for a team being able to win the game, because you constantly see the next zone. You're being able to stay ahead of the game in terms of rotations.
This is huge. Having it so early on, just 1 elimination is what it took to claim it, and now with that boost in knowledge in terms of the zones, they are going to be more than prepared to continue on.
Just trying to look around here, and that's a very, very successful situation for them to be in. As they pause, they're going to be in there until that forecast tower spawns, and even though they pushed off another team, Pink and Vico, Hero and Kuduo, They don't have that luxury. Both of these teams have been known to overstay in a lot of these situations and try to fight for what is about to spawn, and that's the NPC that's going to give you the card to the forecast tower. It's really going to be right in the middle between both of these players.
Deja vu is what I'm feeling right now. Game 1 of the upper bracket yesterday, Pink and Vico in a similar situation. It didn't go their way. Can they turn the tables today and come out on top?
That's what they're looking to do. Isolated. Reckless Wellway's not too far behind, and it does look like Vico might have been able to claim the card, depending on if he was actually able to push through. But either way, you still got to be able to survive and disengage out of this fight for that forecast tower to truly be worth it. And you see the Flowberry Fizz coming out, eyeing the decisions, peeking through a lot of these builds. Nobody really wanted to give up and disengage because that makes you susceptible to so many shots, considering they're on the top of a hill. Not the highest mountain in the game, but it gives whoever stays there the longest a little bit of advantage if they try to disengage.
Look, the issue here is, like I said, I'm getting memories from yesterday, and either they finished these engagements very quickly, but the times that they didn't, they took so long to finish it off that the storm ended up closing. They used all the materials, they used all their shields, and there wasn't even really a winner that came out from this engagement. And Pink and Vico might have realized that. They put in the work and decided it's not even worth it to stay here anymore. We're wasting time.
You can see just immediate disengage while they had that opportunity to do so, push them back away from that forecast tower. And this is one of those situations where you don't want to lose the forecast tower, but exactly what you were talking about. Yesterday showed that a lot of these players get aggressive in certain situations. That was one of them when we saw them go down. And a lot of players learning from their mistakes, and that's why experience playing in the upper bracket yesterday is so pivotal versus those who had to go through the open style of games, which was the lower bracket.
Laha Yepko now already positioned up out of their drop spot on a close area, which has that kind of good amount of elevation, that line of sight through the surrounding areas of all the duos that are going to be rotating now in this second zone, opening up those opportunities to take those shots, get those tags without risking anything.
It's not as much of a risk in the early game. As you can see, a lot of open space, and a team that I was waiting to see. I was wondering how we were going to see them as well. Misha and Teeny, they've been known for so many of their tricks, and you heard the devs kind of break it down. Mini Miner specifically hiding on top of Rift Island, not necessarily going for it, trying to sneak up on teams, doing the same with caches, and it's shown success. They qualified for the Global Championship, landing at over 6 different drop spots to make it there. But I think since then, a lot of these players, a lot of teams, especially the ones landing around them, are taking notice of those tricks, and so they're not as impactful as they once were.
Luckily, didn't take too many shots from their opponents. I like that they're going around to the edge of Storm here. They're trying to get more to the north side, as there's going to be a lot more duos rotating up from the south, and they kind of want to stay away from that congested side of zone.
You can see this is where a lot of those weapon caches are going to come out. And for those of you guys who don't know, you see a lot of teams boxed up on the edge, and you can see it there in the minimap. Since the weapon cache spawns equal distance between two teams, and in these stack lobbies more times than not, the edge of the zone is where a lot of the players congregate to try to get their position, which is why the weapon caches spawn primarily on those edges. And you can see they're going to capture theirs, but there's one more not too far from them, so they're going to be littered around. So don't be surprised if some teams peek off, veer off from their actual direction to try to find those caches.
Camiseti, consistency. Polish Panthers now looted up, ready to go. Full mats. On the edge of Storm, though, it looks like they spent a good amount of time finishing up their loot path, getting everything they need for the rest of this match, but rotating directly up from fencing fields, basically dead center up north. It's going to cause them, like mentioned earlier, to get into that side of the zone, which is going to be a bit more congested, but not having any eliminations, they might want to be on that side. This is going to open up more options to take those shots and get damage.
I think Surge yesterday was kind of impactful of determining if a player can kind of play it out with full control over his games or forced to try to go for a box. And it really changed some players' games, others not so much. Veno and Tayson, they had a rocky road, but finished strong. And I'm hoping they can kind of mimic that success that they found late on the day yesterday to try to be able to win a game today, because that's how simple it is to call it. Win and you're in scenario. Otherwise, depending on your position on the leaderboard, it's go again in day 3 of the upper or lower bracket.
I'm hoping the best for Veno and Tayson. I got a pretty good feeling today that they might be able to make something happen, but it looks like so far playing a bit more passive. They have some duos in the surrounding area, but they've secured the combat cache. They've secured the loot they need. You can even see Perhawa there. Vexy creeping on in.
Almost makes me like wonder. They're looking in that direction. They're probably seeing if they can go for their own weapon cache, because a lot of teams might not have the best loot. And for Perhawa and Vexy, they do have a good loadout, but it's about packing that extra punch. Veno almost takes the bait. They see he's by himself. Vexy's going to be the one to lead the charge. Perhawa is trying to put down as much suppressive fire as possible. Tayson doing the same thing, but he is so far away. This is crucial time, but instead of going in for the 2v1, they immediately disengage, and Darm and Raxi shoot some shots in their direction. That lets them know there are 3 teams on this side of the map, and you have to be careful.
That was a great call by Perhawa there. You could see they realized that there was a 3rd duo in the surrounding area. Veno Tayson already knew of this as they had went up against them earlier, but once you see that 3rd party, when you don't have a knock or don't have anything that permits you to fully go in, it's just not really worth it to take that fight. It's too risky. But for Flipmonk, his duo partner here up against Khan and Chap.
See Khan and Chap looking like they were trying to disengage. Shots went in their direction. They say, oh, you want to fight? We're at the edge of zone. Don't know what our surge is like. We might try to take it, but with no peaks that let them know it's still possible. They're just trying to rotate to the slower side of the zone. The zone did close from the top part of the map. And so they're hoping a lot of teams, since it isn't as contested, are making the rotation as early as they are.
So far, pretty chill for Chap and Khan. 2 elims on the board, nothing really to worry about. We can take a look what happened with Pixie Walks here. Nice little Flowberry crash pad rotate right on top. Surprise package for the enemy here. Quick knock. And that's a nice way to get an elimination.
And those are the things you gotta watch out for, man, because if you use the grapple blade, there's the audio visuals, there's the audio in general. You can hear that thing coming. The crash pad, not so much. It's easy to sneak up on a couple players just like that, catch them off guard, and send them back to the lobby with quickness. You can kind of think that that solo on the side of the minimap, probably the teammate. You can see 319 above the damage threshold. Pixie and Wax at this stage of the game have done more than enough to not worry about Storm Surge as much and kind of find their footing in zone.
Right. Like you said, now is the time to kind of figure out, you know, how they're going to set them up or set themselves up for success for that 8th zone when it gets smaller and smaller, to have to kind of conserve as many materials and mats as they can as the zones go on. But for the players that are just like Hiaro here and his duo, who are getting right onto the edge full of action and pressure from the duos that are already based up, they really have to be careful. Being below as well just makes it that much more risky.
Yeah, there's 3 teams directly nearby, them being the 4th, and then 3 more on the outskirts, 2 towards Lavish Layer, 1 more towards the south. And if you look at the team in the minimap on the south, they're slowly but surely easing in that direction. I think Belusi saw that one coming, quickly fires a snipe shot to let him know, hey, this place is occupied. Don't come in this direction unless you're ready to fight. 75 below the damage threshold, though. He has to stay persistent, trying to grab these opportunities because they don't have any heals. They cannot out-heal this first set of Storm Surge, so they're going to be forced to go into a box against Tina and Mishi. There goes the first shot. Traded back and forth. Shield getting drained off. First one's going to get dropped, but it's only going to be a trade. Belusi goes back in for seconds, takes him down, sends Misha and Teeny back to the lobby, but it comes at a cost because they're so far at the edge of zone with teams still looking in their direction.
Huge way to finish off that engagement. Normally, when you're in this situation and your duo partner goes down and you have to pick him up, you want to expand. You want to make sure you have as much real estate as possible in the surrounding area to be able to pick up your teammate without getting lobby focused. But here, Belusi decided to just quickly pick him up. No builds needed. They were already placed from the engagement that went down. and it worked out well as he picked him up before the Predators had time to attack.
Yeah, Dirty's still playing persistent, trying to get in. No shots being fired off to back him up just yet. And you see they're always taking these additional angles and then making sure that the covers are there. So even if they do get boxed up, they have an escape plan. As Dirty continues to fire shots in that direction, trying to push them off the loot. And as soon as they see there's really nothing here for them to grab, not Storm Surge, not fight, or any extra loot, Nipsey makes the call to disengage on out. This is going to be a little bit of a far pull for them, bypassing Lavish Layer, so they have to go now.
Conchap, we saw them earlier on. Laser focused, calm collected, didn't really need anything to continue their game forwards. 123 above, could use a bit of damage, but in terms of loot and materials, they have more than enough, so they're just taking these shots on the rotation, but I doubt that they'll go for a full-on engagement.
I agree with you. There's still so much space to cover, and as soon as they get there, there's opposition waiting at the edge of zone. Acting like gatekeepers, but Chap still trying to look behind. Fire those shots. Not in zone just yet, but Khan needs to heal, so they're going to stagger themselves with that Flowberry Fizz, so that way they can cover extra distance with that stagger. Rotating door to door, side by side. Demus is the one taking a lot of those shots, but Chap, again, he's more worried about getting into zone than anything else.
Look, I said they might not go for eliminations, but the aggression I'm seeing from Chap, I don't know, it kind of looks like he wants something more. He's a little hungry. He wants to feast on these opponents that are rotating in, but 169 above, you know, they're safe, but they could be a lot safer.
Yeah, just judging off of yesterday's statistics, it was about 137 Storm Surge damage needed. So they're about 167, so they're barely above that threshold. So they still know they need to look for shots, just like Blaha and Yapko. They have Pixie in their lines of sight. A couple of shots are going to get through, but none of them able to connect just yet. But Yapko's persistence is going to climb them well above that Storm Surge threshold for now. But you can see this whole side of the zone is just cluttered with players who have to make a rotation. So this isn't going to be the easiest one for anybody involved.
No, the side we're seeing right now is one of the more difficult sides to rotate through, especially if you don't have enough mobility items to assist you on the rotation. All the duos now that are based up, even the ones around Rift Island that have angles on these players rotating in, are going to be taking shots. So even if you can kind of use the rotation of a player in front of you that's going to be building and taking those shots first, it could be enough to make it in without any scratches.
Yep, Storm Surge active yet again in this zone. 37 above. It's at least a feeling, an inkling of comfortability knowing they can keep moving forward, not really have to worry about the teams behind them, but he's still, that information is vital. Even if you're not going to go ahead and get the shots, his Pixie's there, Neb's eye drop above the bridge, everybody being congested underneath the bridge was going to make it harder and harder to stay alive. You only got a little bit of a crevice, even ending up almost in the same box momentarily, but that's going to be Nebs who goes into Shimoki, takes him out, Wheat stuck by himself, and now he's down below the damage threshold. Now he's forced to make a move, even if he doesn't want to.
Shimoki got a little confused there. Thought he was with his duo partner for a moment, until his duo partner hit him with a nice 200. As Wheat now looking at the players rotating in, it's Pink, it's Vico making it in alongside two quick eliminations. Fury out of the game. Huge refresh for the duo.
Yep. But still not enough here. Wheat still trying to break through. In theory, he could try to out-heal it, but still needs a couple players to go down as he falls further and further below the damage threshold. That's Pink and Vico in his line of sights. Potential fight about to happen, but they probably heard the shields crack. That's the biggest thing. You don't necessarily hear Storm Surge being active other than the shields cracking off the player. And as soon as you hear that come through, you know Storm Surge is active. You just got to hold the walls, continue to back up in place as Wheat is continuing to fall further and further below the threshold, not really finding any opportunities for shots no matter where he looks.
You might be thinking, why did Vico and Pink not take the engagement? They know it's a 2 versus 1. They know he's low on HP, but they don't want to give Wheat that damage. They don't want him to go above Storm Surge. They know that it's an easy pickings elimination once he gets low enough, especially if he doesn't do enough damage. It is not worth that risk. Even with the refresh that they just got, they have spare materials on the ground. They have extra loot that they can get. It's just about focusing on what's next, and pulling this 7th zone is massive.
Yeah, I got to imagine the situation that every team is in, the win and you're in scenario, kind of puts a different wrench in the game plan where some would get aggressive, maybe playing a little bit more passive, not wanting to give it up, but Wheat's still staying alive below everybody else. Belusi, Gabik's doing the same thing. But the med kits are being drained quickly. The first couple of games on the day yesterday went all the way down to the heal off. And they're hoping they can find some eliminations and get those med kits. Otherwise, they're going to be in danger.
It's a comeback for Belusi here. He got the clutch when he picked up those 2 eliminations and his duo partner, but they are still just 12 damage above the threshold. You hear duos close by. You can go for the pre-edits. You can go for the double pickaxe to replace. But the closer you are, the riskier it is. Ideally, if you could just hit one shot with that sniper, it could be enough, or even just a few AR tags, as he does not want to risk it all yet. But as now the clock is ticking, 18 below, nerves keep rising. This is where the danger levels keep increasing. Something has to happen.
Yeah, you either take the green light or you wait and let all those other cars pass you. And you can see how active the lobby actually is right now. They're going above damage, below damage, players getting eliminated. There's so many different scenarios in which they're able to survive, but it's the patience that is the biggest key for them. They're not making any moves. They're not forcing themselves into any altercations, and now they're going to live. Storm Surge deactivates, and they have a chance now that they're not forced to formulate a plan to figure out what is going to be next.
The good news is they survived quite a lot of the Storm Surge, but the bad news is I don't see any shields, Jacob. No Flowberry Fizz, no minis, no bigs. All they have are med kits. iDrop, on the contrary, played for that aggressive route, going straight into his opponent's box. And did it pay off? I think it did. 1 knock, possibly 2 eliminations, and that's more enough to put you back in the game.
Yep, it's huge. Those, not only the mats, but any utility that you're able to find on the ground as Belusi and Gabix, they're still threading the line of Storm Surge. But you see him lining up shots, looking toward the black of zone. Flipmok almost was the receiving end of a couple nice, well-placed shots from Belusi and Gabix. But you can see drained are the shields. They still have nothing left. Somebody finally breaks in the box. They get separated as solos, but great shots coming out from Belusi. He's continuing to backtrack in his steps. Really doesn't have a chance to save Gabix. You even see the wall get edited. Returning fire. Nice shot yet again, but down to just 60 HP. Demas trying to get to the box, and he finally goes down. Demas stands tall, and what a moment it was.
Unable to connect his shots. Now 9th zone. This is the first moving zone where these duos have to figure out what is their game plan for the rotation. Who is the duo on top in high ground? How many players are going through mid-low? Is there that uncongested side that they can go through the edge of the zone to not lose too many shields on their rotate?
Yep, seen a lot of players rotating early. Some don't have that luxury. They have to stagger themselves behind. As Nebs goes down, iDrop stuck by himself. He tries to make a play, but it gets taken down himself. Both of them are down and out of the lobby. Very few placement points here in game 1. Aseti and Cammy, they had a slow start to the day yesterday, but if 2-day events tell you anything, it's day 2 is where they set themselves on fire and really light up the scoreboard.
Vico at 3, Pink still up and running, and they're hungry for more. That's another one. 4 on the board now for Vico, but the rotation has to come through. Edge on the zone right now, group up and continue.
Yep, Floppers, Flowberry, plenty of shields to work with Pink and Vico. They're definitely setting themselves up right, especially with the material count. This is their play. As they go up a few layers, they typically start to look for height to see if it is going to be achievable, but it might be a little too high as Pablo, Wingu, and Bevies, they have it for now, but Chap and Con are waiting in the ring. Second height. They get forced to disengage by Pablo and Bevies' suppression, and now they're going to go to the front side of zone. I think for here and the rest of this game, they might have it solidified.
Bevies doing a great job of dropping down, connecting to the structures that have already been built on second, third height, while his duo partner covers him from the back. But it's Janice now that wants a piece of the pie, going right into the action. Is he going to be able to overthrow?
I thought they were going to be able to hold on to it, but Janice has something to say about it. Don't know where Flixie's at for now, but he's still staying alive. As soon as his duo can fully reunite, you see them slowly but surely waterfalling down, making sure that they have enough chance to grab any loot and then also not get shot down. Janice is playing this one perfect along with Flixie, but Pablo is going to be left by himself.
A lot of clouds in the sky with the amount of duos contesting the high ground. Now Pablo Wingu all alone, trying to figure out what the game plan is. He has a good amount of materials, popping the med kit to get up to 200 effective HP and shield, but Cammy is going to go down, leaving it all up to Seti.
And that's the win condition right there. Medkits, floppers, he had everything in his inventory, and now it's getting passed around, but somebody enters the door. Seti under siege, under pressure. That's Wox is going to take him down.
Marius continuing with the domination, 1 on the board, but now with only 300 materials, 22 builds to work with, he still has a bit of time, but only 13 duos up, 18 players. A quick refresh, this could be it. It's Khan right in front of him. He doesn't know he's just 1 shot away from being eliminated. This medkit gets used up, it could be time to strike.
I believe Marius might have saw him at the tail end, but he cannot go for the elimination. Yanis, Flixie, they're looking like smooth sailing on top of the mountain. And Perhawa and Vexy, the pain of yesterday. Second place multiple times, and now they're getting aggressed on, trying to not let that team into the box, but they're down just to the wood, easily breakable. And if anybody sees that, they see it as a sign of weakness.
The issue is heal-offs. They need medkits. Benno has one, but in the middle of the chaos, Lobby looking electric as Vico picks up another 5 eliminations for Vico, continuing to take on more.
And those medkits change hands once more, but Vico just taking too much damage to the Storm. The Storm sickness does play a role in some of these heal-offs, but a fadeaway shot coming out from Vico. He takes down Marius.
He is not done cooking. 6 on the board, but he's lost his teammate. Pink has gone down. Vico now, a one-man army. 8 more players up and running as the medkit gets popped.
Yep, he only has 1 more left in his inventory, but teams and players are falling left, right, and center. One of the few solos left in this game. He's going to the backside. He finds even more medkits. This heal-off could go in the way of Vico.
Vexy still up above. Janice on height looking to play the heal off. It could be 2 or 3 players going for heal off, but Flixie is the one that has to cancel the heal off, and there it is. Huge elimination for Flixie, freeing up even more time for Janice to continue with the heal off.
And even more medkits on the low ground. He has 6 in his inventory now. Flixie has his 7th. Vico already took storm damage early on in this game and doesn't have the heals, so he has to look for it. Just like Yanis was able to found, Storm Sickness activates. He's not able to hold on. Yanis and Flixie take the game and advance to the grand finals.
What a way to start off the day. Yanis playing it flawlessly with the heal off from above, and Flixie, annihilation down below, stopping his opponents from using the medkits. Vico also pure carnage, over 6 elims, but was unable to get enough medkits to close it out.
Yeah, through the last 3 zones, it was a roller coaster. It was musical chairs at high ground. 4 different teams, maybe even more, had a claim for it, had a chance to take it, but it was Yanis and Flixie at the perfect moment. They snatched it away and didn't look back. And this is where I got a little worried. Flixie going after Vexy. I was like, no, you have to go after Vico. He has all the heals. But nonetheless, he found even more, a plan B for him and Yanis. Congratulations to them. They got to be feeling on top of the world.
That is a huge way to start it off. You can even see Yanis had, I think, 6 total medkits starting this heal off, so I know he had a smile on his face.
Yep, we gotta go ahead and feel the pain once more. Perhawa and Vexy, another top 3 performance coming out of them. Incredible throughout the day, and they gotta be feeling great. But you know who else ought to be feeling great? Frankie. She definitely picked a winner. Frankie, what do you gotta say?
I'm feeling fabulous, boys. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for kicking things off in style. To be honest, I can't take any credit. These boys called it. Janice and Flixie, a victory royale for these boys was absolutely inevitable, and it was inevitable in that game, really, from when they established Hype Mini.
Yep, that's what we said at the beginning of the show. It was going to be a Janice and Flixie high ground win, and it couldn't have been a better zone for them to take home that first game. It was right on their back garden. It was right at their drop spot, and a really, really nicely played end game at that as well. Very sort of usual for this team. A lot of what we've seen from those guys in the past, lower amount of eliminations, but they play things very, very well. They get eliminations at the right time, Levin, and you saw them getting that high ground at the perfect moment right then.
Yeah, absolutely. This is what they've been doing all season long, and I think it's only a matter of time, really. We called it. We said they were going to be a team that won a game, and it's very similar to what we saw yesterday, where, you know, Vanya considered one of the few teams you consider a hype team this season picks up the win. Maybe there's something in that if you're the likes of Queasy and Thomas, who maybe have been trying to move away from hype this season. Maybe there's still some magic there. I think it's shown in their gameplay. And you know what's funny, Minnie? You know, yesterday I mentioned how a lot of the times, right, you might not actually want to carry double med kits, right? Because, you know, you're going to find some in endgame. We saw that from Vico in that endgame. When you are Janice, right, you know I want to play height this game. And so if I'm playing height, it's going to be a lot harder for us to be able to pick up and find those med kits throughout the endgame. So even in him carrying double med kits, you see the intention was set from very, very early on in this game. We are going to look to try play height, and we're going to get the win doing it.
They didn't initially establish height, though. That was Pablo, Wingo, and Bevies. What was the mistake that those boys made? Because it seemed like an intelligent decision for them to split off and for Bevies to try and clear out any opponents who might want to chop them down. But then maybe they got isolated from each other. What happened, Levin?
the big thing is, I think that was actually a perfect example of why some teams are scared of playing height. With the grapplers now, when you have so much distance in that zone, right, and you're trying to establish that much space, it's very hard, right? Oftentimes you'll see two teams keep both players back just to be able to be ready if anyone strikes you that way. Also, you could maybe, you know, critique Pablo Ingu and Berries a bit and say, hey, you should have been pressuring that team a lot more, right? You should be looking at those type of teams in the back of zone who seem to have a lot of materials, right? So some small details there, but ultimately, I think Janice and Flixie, you know, they have so much experience playing height that it was always going to be hard for anyone to hold it.
And even if you don't get that victory royale, those placement points are important because there's 25 spots up for grabs in tomorrow's final 3 games of the upper bracket. So the leaderboard, here we go. Janice and Flixie, they will not be playing again tonight. So cast your eyes down. In fact, just cast your eyes to number 2 because Vico and Pink, we haven't spoken about them yet today. But I love watching this duo. For me, if I was to pick a 4th duo to talk about in the pre-show, these would have been the guys because Vico is an absolute monster. And Pink has just taught him so much discipline in the game that when he unleashes this man, he does so much damage to the enemy, Mini.
Yeah, and I think discipline is an important word to highlight there because that is what Vico has needed in a teammate for a long time. And you can finally start to see things coming good for these guys. There's a little bit of a question mark as to whether they were going to be landing or actually playing together at the beginning of this season. And now, of course, they are. So it's good to see them back together. You can see what they can do when they're at their best, particularly Vico on his own. For me now, this begs the question, though, because off spawn, they were fighting for that forecast tower. We saw them go down to that yesterday. Are they now going to move over towards that Reckless Railways area? Maybe take a little bit of that loot that Janice and Flixie, of course, had, because that half of that drop spot now, 11, is actually uncontested. And if you remember yesterday, we actually saw Queasy and Thomas actually, of course, win a game. So Lavish Lair was contested by only one team. And it was actually that team that ended up coming out with a win the next game. So maybe that could be something that they may maybe try and do.
Yeah, I'm interested. I don't know if they'll change up too much. They've been putting in a lot of work into their spot. I think yesterday part of their lack of success, you'd say, was partly due to them being so focused on conditioning and making sure that they were, you know, prioritizing, hey, we are going to be that team that gets that forecast. I think the key thing for these guys, right, and I'll give a shout out here, is, you know, they've actually had, you know, the return of someone who used to be a key part of them, Always Pappy. Shout out to Always Pappy. He's, you know, a mental coach, and he's been very, very key to Vico's success in that team as well, right? Being able to come in and help them back when Pink and Anas were at their peak. It was Always Pappy that was always helping them out. So big shout out to him. He's clearly making a difference to this duo.
Yeah, definitely big shout out to him. And it just shows the level of Fortnite that we're at nowadays. It's not just about raw mechanical skill. It's these external factors that have a big part to play as well. If your team's feeling good, if you're all on the same good vibes, then it really turns into results. And hopefully for them, it will today.
Get yourself a pappy. That is the moral of this desk segment. We're going to head, though, into game number 2 and keep this train on the tracks with Jacob and Takata.
Thank you so much, Frankie. I mean, that's what we love to hear, right? Preparation, the homework that has to be done, especially in these set lobbies where there's only 50 duos and you know what's happening in your surroundings. You know who's normally going to contest those forecast towers and even, like, you know, combat caches. You know which duos are probably going to be around you when you're rotating through. It's that knowledge that you need to stay on top.
Yeah, it's very, very crucial. You're able to plan much further in your game than you would have been able to before, but the trend, Takata, continues. 6 of 6, all new duos. Will that continue? We'll find out because the next game starts now.
One game down, 4 to go. A lot of pressures on the line, especially for duos like Vexy and Porhauer. They've been performing so well, Jacob, back-to-back. Well, 2 second-place finishes in day 1, a 3rd-place finish starting off day 2 in the uppers. You know that they won it more than anyone.
Yeah, so many teams have felt the pain of not just 2nd place, but getting so close into that top 5 numerous times. But Spinaldo misses the first floor loop. Back-to-back at that, and he's going to be the first one taken down by Analix and Sato. His teammate tries to trade off some shots, but it almost feels like it's too little too late now that they have the 2v1 achieved.
Quick way to finish it off in the early game here. 1 elimination on the board now with the player advantage. As long as they keep their cool, they should be able to come out on top here. But in these scenarios, when their opponent starts running away like this, it gets to a point where it's not really worth it to continue chasing, especially if they have a good amount of mobility items, as you don't want to mess up that efficiency from your loot path right off the start. But, you know, as it looks like the opponent's taking a break, It's turned into a 1 versus 1. He lost the player advantage here. Makes it a bit more dangerous, but hopefully it's enough to finish it off.
Yeah, he's doing a good job of playing so defensively, even popping some shots back, but Andalix sees the opening of the door. Doesn't let that one go through. Sato's on the other side. He saw him there and thought that was a perfect opportunity for a 2v1, but Andalix immediately shuts that down, but 3 shots left in the hammer. Only a couple left in the burst SMG, but it doesn't matter. Sato returns to the fight and ends it that quick.
Was close, but good way. Now, focus up, continue with your loop path, and keep it going.
This is what you were talking about, though. They've traveled so far from their initial drop where it is going to disrupt their loop path. But it does open up some stuff that may not necessarily grab of the pass and kind of opens up other teams that opportunity to try to steal away that loot. But you can see where they have their eyes on, continue to move towards south, backtrack in their steps, and get the loot that they once lost.
Taking a look at Vexy now. We've talked a lot about this duo, but how do they do it? 0 elims on the board. Now that I think about it, I don't think they were originally contested today, but in the last match, they were. They had a duo here right off the start, but it looks like now, once again, north side of Classy here is back to their name, but for Sky and Scroll, they are in a different situation as the danger is on.
Yeah, just dropped down to very little HP by Edit Course and Vortexia. But they don't have too many heals on their side, but he finds at least 1 mini, but still 1 well-placed shot will take him down. Finally has a chance to reunite with Edit Course, but still gotta wonder, what is the utility? What are the resources like for them to continue this fight if they try, or even if Sky and Scroll want to continue to push forward and get these eliminations?
Grapple Blade being used now as the disengagement comes through. Sometimes you can realize pretty quickly if a fight is going to be worth it or not. And sometimes maybe you just want to take a little second to breathe. A chance to focus up and replan your strategy to continue forwards.
Yep, you got to remember, because Yanis and Flixie just qualified out of Reckless Railways. It opens up a spot here. You can see immediately disengaging. Instead of just running away, they're going after the boss, but it leaves them open to shots yet again. Maybe a little ill-advised, maybe just a little too greedy going for that one. But you see Sky on a whole nother angle, slowly but surely pushing in that direction, knowing that they cannot take it for free. That's going to be the biggest thing. But Scroll, his shield's gone just like that. He might have taken too much damage, which gives that moment of opportunity as long as they realize it.
Switching back over to a party that we weren't invited to. 2, 3, what is that? Almost 4 duos in the surrounding area, but it's going to be Misha and Tini who are crouched up in a box, letting the action unfold, waiting for their opportunity to strike. It's Blaha and Yapko, though, who are in the front of the pack, taking the shots, going for the wall replaces, but so far, nothing too critical has happened.
This is just another one of those forecast towers. People and teams are starting to realize more and more how easy the game becomes once you're able to kind of see the zones. Blaha getting pushed down, but he's still holding onto the pieces. Walks on the other side. Has to be careful because he's the one that's directly in the box. Pixie can't build a floor here because of the forecast tower. And you see him trying to go around any nook, any cranny he can go ahead and try to steal that piece back. He's going to take it.
You can see now second zone has popped. It seems to have popped pretty far, and they are quite west on the map currently. So clock's ticking. There's a lot of duos in the surrounding area for potential third parties. It's looking, honestly, like a situation that none of these duos want to be in, but the issue is the ones that are deep into it almost can't really escape yet. But when you hit those shots like Blaha, it opens up the opportunities to continue applying pressure forwards and even trying to finish off at least the knock or an elimination. But 55 seconds on the clock till the zone starts closing. That's the time limit. This forecast tower, you can see how important it is for a lot of these duos.
Uh-oh. This could be the moment right now with one team disengaging. Misha and Tini, they're right above. I don't think they're going to be able to stop this one from going through, but these are the type of strategies that they wait for. Sneak, hide in the cone, wait for somebody to cross your path, and then you strike all at once, and they are so patient They're just hoping this pays off for them in the end because the zone has pulled far away from them. So all the time that they took to be in this position, hopefully it's not a waste.
I mean, with what you get from a forecast tower, it's certainly not a waste if you're on the winning side of it. Speaking about forecast towers, speaking about engagements that we see again and again, Pink and Vico back at it. This time, though, they are not outside of zone. They have a bit more freedom, but it's only freedom in terms of the zone, not freedom in terms of how many materials and loot and consumables that's going to be used up from stalling out these engagements.
You can see just nobody really wanted to make too much of a move. But this is stalled out for so long, and I do believe Kiddo and Kiro were the ones actually able to grab the tower here in this game. And immediately, there's nothing left to fight for. It's not worth the risk to stay. Pink and Vico disengage on out. But those are some great shots coming from the distance. Not every day you see the 4X on the Enforcer. But sometimes you kind of just pick up that floor loot. And you got to use what you got, and they're actually using it pretty good to gather a couple of shots for Storm Surge.
Feeling a bit chilly as we head up north to the snowy mountains. Snazy put aside 2 elims on the board, but you can see a lot of the duos that were in the surrounding area here have already started to rotate towards zone, and it's going to be them who stayed here, continuing to farm up now and find their clean escape back into the zone.
One of the fan favorites of the Global Championship. French crowd went absolutely insane for them every single time they popped up. Same thing here for Cammy and Seti. Second place at the Global Championship. A rough day yesterday, but they picked it up as the day went on. Just trying to hoping to replicate the end of day success here in the beginning. Cammy had a close call in that last game. He went down with all the heals. Seti tried to save it, but unfortunately, it was just too little too late, and now they have a team in their line of sight. Depending on their surge, I can see their plan, not necessarily to engage in a full fight, but just to get a couple shots. You know, they're one of the passive teams we have here in the EU FNCS, and let those eliminations come to them as the game naturally progresses.
They had a rough last match.
Oh, wow.
Oof. That was scary. If that was a headshot, that would have been very bad for Cammy and Seti. You can see the instant disengagement as they run right back to a shield fish that was left over previously. What I was mentioning is in the last match, they ended up going down with a lot of materials and loot still in their inventory. So, you know, they might want to focus up here on this next game. But for Tini and Misha in Fencing Fields, another incredibly popular location with a lot of duos in the surrounding area. But disengagement's going to come through as well.
Playing a game of like musical chairs with their positioning. Gotta imagine the early fight. Pink and Vico has to have netted at least some Storm Surge. Them again trying to sneak up on yet another couple of teams for that Storm Surge before they disengage and continue moving forward. And this is kind of the stage of the game. The weapon caches are beginning to come out, and you're seeing a lot of teams begin to stagger and even kind of fight for it. But other teams, as you're seeing here, they're not engaging in this fight because they're just waiting for the scrap that Smokey and Wheat will eventually be behind.
Just kind of zooming in at the wall, maybe try to find what's happening through the cracks of the brick, see if they can get a sneak peek of the duo that's in there. Shamoki Wheat, who secured the combat cache, but their opponents in the surrounding area are still interested. They say, is there a bit of, leftover loot? Is there an option for us to take a shot? They already have their builds placed. They don't want to use more materials just to move a little bit. They are still in zone, and with 1:25 until fourth even appears, they have quite a lot of time to burn here.
Yeah, the only question for teams that are staggering themselves like this in the position is Storm Surge. Do they have enough? It wasn't until about Zone 6 in most of our games yesterday and even today that Storm Surge was really active and forcing these teams to fight. So they have a couple more zones if it does continue in that trend to find some shots for Storm Surge, so that way they're not forced in just a bad spot that we saw in game 1 where you kind of have to push into a team whether you want to or not, and then it's almost a coin toss from there.
Yeah, I think Shimoku Wheat are going to disengage and kind of follow the path that Pixie and Walks were doing around the less congested side of zone. Now that they have what they need. For Taste and Veno, though, already up north. This is good for them. As the zone did pull up north, there's going to be a lot of duos from the south rotating in. So they're going to be more around Reckless Railways, Ruined Reels, that side of the map. So for Tayson and Veno, in terms of safety and positioning, it's looking good. But in terms of damage, it's what they need. And it's exactly what they know as they're taking shots at the players that are around here.
You can see as soon as those shots land, Veno goes right back onto that high ground. He's just trying to get information. That was Pink and Vico that took the brunt of that damage from Tayson. Almost a blessing that they don't get pushed by Veno and Tayson, because that's a fight that a team like this normally would look to finish, but with the stakes on the line, you see everybody playing just a little bit more passive than usual.
I think that's Pink without any shields. He is recuperating HP though. Might have got hit by a sniper or something to crack him. As now you can see Veno and Tayson staying on the elevated location to open up those angles. But luckily enough, there is that combat cache there, which was secured, giving them those extra shields, HP, to heal right back up and still have it in the inventory as well. There's not too many duos in the surrounding area, but they have a lot of options to kind of continue taking shots at each other and continue taking that damage that's going to be so heavily leaded further on in the match.
Oh, I saw Marius and Sandguild slowly but surely sneaking in, crouching, but there's also a whole nother team on the south of Grand Glacier that they have to potentially watch out for. And I think he hears Tayson running around. He's giving up that communication and information on over to his teammate. That's going to be the first shot. 50 shield almost gone just like that right off of Tayson. And you can almost see why. They have no heals on the back of Marius at the very minimum. So they're just fighting for scraps. Anything that they can see that is left behind, unless it ends up in a full-on engagement.
That's a crazy stat. Sangil Marius finished 5th, 6th, and 5th in 4 of the 5 games yesterday in the upper bracket. So you know they've had a little taste of what qualifying directly to the grand finals can feel like in this winner-takes-all format. And now starting off with 2 eliminations. They're pretty good on damage, but I would like to see a bit more shield, a bit more medkits. But for this part of the match, it's not bad at all.
Marius just hunting inside of the building. Here's the grapple blade. Tries to fire some shots, but it's just not enough. But the attempt was made. Found something. Just like Topco. Finds the medkit, able to heal up on top of Rift Island. See him drop it down. You got to imagine his teammate's reboot card has to be somewhere nearby, and immediately grabs it. Goes for the Rift, but interestingly enough, this loot island doesn't have a reboot van up there, but Pink and Vico, they end up in an exchange. But you can see how many teams. We were just on this side of the map moments ago. This is probably one of the more congested sides of the map currently. While everybody else continues to move in, you can see an opportunity to break through the top of the box. Pink and Vico don't find any success, and now they're just taking damage to the Storm. 1 tick at a time, and they have the floppers to heal up, but Vico had Storm sickness last game. You don't want to let that happen again, so you got to end this fight quick before it becomes a possibility, especially with Pink going down. That puts Vico on the back foot. This is one of those fights to where you didn't expect it to happen, but now it did. Now what are you going to do?
All we did was blink, and it turned from nothing to everything. Now in the 1 versus 2, Vico decides it's not worth it. I've lost my teammate. There's a duo still fighting. There's more solos in the surrounding area. The third parties, the fourth parties. What has gone wrong is now Vico is going to have to spend the time outside of the zone. He has the floppers to take it, but it's going to be incredibly difficult to pick up Pink. But if I learned anything from yesterday, 3 reboots from Malabuka, still ending up with a victory royale, 11 eliminations. Anything is possible, Jacob. And Vico is definitely a player that can make it happen.
I'm here for back-to-back history-making days in the FNCS for EU. You know, feeling like, you know, flashbacks of the Go Vico Go days not too long ago in third-party solo competition. Nebs and iDrop. Not in the zone, or at least not Nebs, but he's just trying to see if anybody is staggering themselves to the backside of the zone. They want to make sure to keep the clear part of zone behind them as clear as possible. And if anybody does sneak up on, they want to just be prepared for that occasion.
5 seconds until 6th zone appears. Once again, getting closer and closer to that 8th zone. So you really want to think about your positioning here and where you can box yourself up to give you the most efficient rotate later on. But it all depends on a number of factors: your damage, your loot, your materials, your current position, and what your game plan is. In these zones, in the mountainous areas where there's so many changes in elevation and possible moving zones that disrupt the late game, you really have to plan ahead.
I think that's what Wox and Pixie are trying to do. They know they need some surge. They know they need the shots, but they also need some farm, some materials. As Vico sneaks up on a whole nother player, has to be careful because it's actually a full duo here and then a third party that's disengaging. Nice shot to come out. Great opportunity for Vico to pick up some surge now that his teammate is down. First one's gonna get dropped. He knows at least one more is there. He has to be careful. Stay too long. You don't have the HP to overstay your welcome in a situation like this, and I think he knows just that, and he immediately tries to disengage and find a better position in towards the zone, but he gets spotted out. I think a couple teams around him know that he is a solo.
Oh, skiing through the mountain, but he's in a pothole now. All these duos taking shots. He's stuck. Can you get out, Vico? 4 builds to work with. 3. Oh, no.
There's almost no reason to give up. You have to know he's nearby, and he didn't disengage, but persistence is going to be the key here for them. You have to be careful with the attachment. He goes further back, getting pressured once more. Builds are running out. Vico goes down to Heine. And again, the struggles for yesterday continue for Pink and Vico, but 3 med kits for Noya and Heine. Another elimination, but the focus right below him on the side of the mountain. That's what's going to be the annoyance.
You can see now all the players who are more on the southwest side of this zone are trying to get as north as possible to be on those higher elevated locations. For Mixon and Ping, though, they've just picked up a nice little refresh. Now with 4 on the board, 321, bumped up to 619 damage above the Storm Surge threshold. Now all that's left is that rotation into the zone. And it's not going to be an easy one with the players based up, but hopefully if they make good use of the mobility items, the grapple blade, it should be more than enough.
Especially knowing that the zone had just opened up, but Nevs just kind of gets edited down, drops into the box, gets dropped altogether. And you can see iDrop making the conscientious decision. There's no use being a hero here, and he has the experience. He has won a game just to make it to the upper bracket during the weekly qualifiers as a solo from early on. He ended up taking that game to earn his right to be here, so anything is definitely possible when it comes to iDrop.
35 below. He's going to want to take shots, but the focus here should be just make it to zone and then get your damage. 4 above. Misha and Tini, I want you to group up here, get in the same box. There it is. Now, there is players taking shots. They can use that as an opportunity to trade some damage. But you got to be careful, because if you get cracked, the focus is on you.
Yeah, a lot of that Flowberry Fizz was just kind of using it to top themselves up, but now Storm Surge is ticking a lot of their patient play. This is exactly what happens when you're a little too patient, but Fury's on the other side of that box. Misha's gonna waste no time getting in along with Teeny, and that gets them above the damage threshold. It's not a ton, but at least it's something, and they get the Mythic Striker for their efforts. That is definitely a huge win for Teeny and Misha.
I love this, the positioning, the loot, the damage. Still only 55 above, though. One quick Reaper sniper rifle is shot. Could be enough, but at the same time, they're not fully inside of the zone yet. The issue is with Storm Surge picking, everybody is looking for damage right now. You peek too much, and it could be the end.
Oh man, Storm Surge just now went up for Pablo and Bevies. He found shots the side of his build. That was almost a nightmare. Pablo would have been taken out. Bevies would have been stuck by himself. And now they have a second chance, but once again, they fall below the damage threshold. A lot of their heals are being used just to get up to 200 shield and HP, so they're going to be forced here to try to look for some shots, but luckily the zone is going down the mountain, so opportunity after opportunity will be there.
Making their way on in. Sniper rifle in hand. Moments like these are the ones that make or break a game, and for Bevies, it might have just been broken as he's been taken out. Pablo now left as a solo. He does have a chance, though, to pick Bevies back up.
Got to return the favor, but it does look like Seti and Cammy momentarily were running in that direction. Cammy going up the mountain, just trying to get the loot that did fall down. They're just gathering scraps, and now shots coming in from different directions. They know somebody is reviving or healing in this direction, and luckily Pablo and Bevies have a combination of minis and medkits. It's not going to get them to 200 Takata, but it's definitely going to get them healthy enough for this next rotation.
Issue is, 8th zone has appeared. It's going right back up the mountains. The change in elevation is going to make it that much more difficult for these players to rotate who are down below. And at the meantime, you have players like Bevies and Pablo who not only want to focus on a rotation or even just a change in elevation, but also have to get that damage done as shields run low, medkits run low, and the clock keeps ticking. The stress levels keep rising.
I was thinking this a moment ago. I saw Tayson, no Veno in sight. Last time we saw them, it was another team, and they were just getting hurt on the low ground. Storm Surge finally ticking in. Pablo needs this med kit. Oh, just a few seconds shy of going down and getting eliminated. Bevies tries to find the shots, but he gets chopped down altogether. There's not enough heals to go around, so Pablo's going to have to do this one as a solo, and that's the Polish powerhouses on the low ground. They clean up that elimination. They were the ones who originally stole the scraps from that early fight as well. They're doing everything to rob Bevies and Pablo from their loot and from their position here.
Can he do it? Was 3 above momentarily, but right back to 105 below the Storm Surge threshold. 21 HP to work with. Can survive. Just a sliver of HP as he climbs up the mountain. All the bullets flying, raining down from above. It's CZB in front. 200 effective HP. It's not going to be the engagement that Pablo wants to take here.
That was some decent shots, but it's just not enough. He fell too far down below the threshold. And finally, Storm Surge ticks again. He goes down and out. And those are the mistakes right there from Pablo and Bevy. You're going to remember that going into the next couple games, and it's going to change your game plan and how you get Surge. I did see in the feed that Tayson did pick up elimination onto Fishy, and a huge sneak attack just like that is how he was able to find the first. Unfortunately enough, don't know what happened with the second, but we know Tayson was able to stay alive.
The second's gone. 1 elim for Tayson. It looks like the disengagement came through after that first elimination. But now, 9th zone, first moving, has commenced. 35 seconds on the clock as Tayson makes use of that grapple blade to stay ahead.
Doing a good job here as a solo. 1 med kit, drops down onto another team, but he's just trying to get nearby, make himself look bigger than he actually is, so it's harder to push. And that player that he was chasing, you see him trickle down the side of his box, so a couple of solos running around here. Tayson is just find the easiest path to one of these enemies. Vortexia is the one, but he barely gets out and escapes the grasp of Tayson. I'm not sure he knows how lucky he just got.
There's a lot of times where you want to stay ahead of the zone, but in situations like this where there's the potential for it to pull right back up the mountain, you almost want to stay on the far end at the back and be prepared to go straight up again as it's pulled north.
You see Cammy and Seti doing barely enough to keep themselves ahead in this game, recycling builds, using the Flowberry Fizz, dropping all the way down to a nice mid layer, not ultimate low by any means. Mixed in and pings, this is going to be the tricky part. How are they going to maneuver this? Do they try to trickle down with a waterfall? Because any team can look up. There's only a few layers protecting them, but as long as they put this pressure down, there won't be too much of a chance for anybody to look up.
Almost looking like a sky base with the amount of elevation the teams in the clouds have. Put aside Snazy, good layer here, but it opens up the potential for the players above to take shots, and that's exactly what's happening. It's the issue with being second height. Do you take shots back? Do you look for a sniper shot? Or do you turn into Cammy and start fragging out here? 2 on the board, 3 for the duo. But Cammy gets dropped.
Oh, that's again, Cammy goes down. 3 medkits in the flopper. Seti's nowhere to save the day this time, and he cannot pass him like he did in that last game. That puts a whole world of pressure on Seti's shoulders, knowing not only is he solo, but the win condition went out the window.
Snazy put aside, healing up, making sure they will have that boost in mobility as they continue to rotate forwards, now dropping layers. They saw the cons of being second height, but you gotta be careful where you drop. Another duo knocking on Snazy's door. Hello, it's me. And there it is, knocked down. Now put aside, left as a solo.
As per Hawa and Vexy, they're trying to get revenge on the day yesterday, and even in game 1 where they placed in the top 3. Chap and Khan 4 eliminations so far, but no real shield, so they're really relying on that medallion to give them as much shield as possible as they continue the rotations, but High Ground changes hands. No more ping and mixing. It's now Chap and Khan. They're in prime position to hold on to it as another player gets dropped down low on the low ground, and it's just a huge amount of destruction going on down there.
Hey, Mixing, though, they want the clouds, they want the sky. It's Perhawa, though, who's the king on the throne. As Chap gets taken out, Vexy is still up. Can they do it? They've been waiting game after game, second place after second place, third place in the last one. All they need is the victory royale.
And there's still a couple of solos running around that could disrupt everything. Even Khan going down low, trying to play Disruptor. Could be a little too early. Ping's trying to follow up. Doesn't get the shot that he wanted, but they're still playing aggressive on the Shimoki. He's going to get dropped. Now it's all up to Wheat here for that team.
Ping now, trying to break through the builds, trying to find any opportunity to continue forwards. No med kits on his loadout, though, and it could come down to a heal off. He takes a shot at Wheat. He's unable to connect it. Wheat now coming out on top, 25 HP to work with, and Perhawa is left to finish it off.
Enough second places, enough top threes, 5 eliminations, and finally the victory going on over to a team that has put everything on the line, laid it all on the table. Perhawa and Vexy, congratulations. I'll see you next weekend in the FNCS Finals.
They've done it, Jacob. 2 second place finishes, 1 third place in the first game of the day, and they turned that pressure into motivation as they secure the victory royale in game 2.
Hey, if they're looking this good, if they can continue this success, grand finals, you better watch out, because they're looking like a threat to the lobby, taking down multiple teams along their path. Even said Wheat was a solo for so long, and Perhawa and Vexy, they stole high ground at the perfect moment, and it was almost smooth sailing from them because nobody was able to look up.
Look, that's an insane match history. You said it yourself, Jacob. For grand finals, even if you get back-to-back second places, a third place, and the VR on top of it, imagine how many points that could sum up to.
Yep, but with that, we have 2 game winners. 2 teams we already know are going to the grand finals. Let's check the leaderboards with only 3 games left.
Thank you, guys. This is what I want to see, boys. It's the consistency, the tenacity paying off, and it truly paid off in that game for Vexy and for Chower and Mini Miner.
They've done it. They have got themselves a victory royale. I'm so happy for them. This whole weekend, they've been performing so well. And, you know, this whole time I was like, is it actually going to happen for them? We were almost waiting on a miracle, and they've actually done it. I mean, they've been really, really solid, as Takasa mentioned right there. Of course, now picking up a victory royale going into the grand finals. This is a team to look out for because, of course, yesterday, it was a tough day for them, and they really used that as that motivation, that fire in their belly to keep them going to today, 11.
Yeah, those second places, it was almost getting painful to watch for them. This is some clips from yesterday, right, where it just was over and over again. They were getting themselves in these heel-offs, and it was so close, sort of ironic that the one game they finally win wasn't a heel-off, right? It was like, now that we don't have to worry about healing off, we can just win the game, and I'm so happy for them. It seems like this streak is continuing of these newly formed duos winning these games, and it's good to see them added to that list. And like you both have said now, look, if they can keep this kind of form going into the grand finals next weekend, my oh my, we might have some future champions, some new champions on our hands, because they have been in top form.
It's been really exciting to see now that we've headed into the set lobby, these duos showing us what they can truly do. And you've got to feel, though, for some of the other opponents that they came up against, because, I mean, these two have been dominating, obviously, the lobby these past 2 days, but Ping and Mixon as well. I honestly, my money was on them, but now when you're looking at these highlights, again, I keep using the word, but it feels inevitable. It feels like it was meant to be, 11.
Yeah, I actually was looking at Ping and Mixon on height, and I was thinking, hold on a minute. When we saw them on height yesterday, the problem for them was Janice and Flixie. Now Janice and Flixie on in the lobby. Maybe let's hope they win the game out from there, but it wasn't quite to be. I'll be interested to see if these guys keep pushing for it. I think, you know, for Pings and Mixon, they will definitely have their eyes on height now for the rest of the games, because I think they see that is their pathway. And look, they've been the best team on consistency so far today, sitting third on that leaderboard. So I expect to see them up there a lot more.
Yeah, certainly. I think this is one of those teams that will just keep trying to go for that high, maybe take on that high ground role. I mean, Pachawa and Rexy, what a fantastic performance for those guys. I mean, I'm looking at their end games as well. It seems like in that final stage of the end game, they're not getting like 7s, 8s. They're getting seconds. They're getting firsts, of course, now as well. And I'm really, really excited to see what they can do in those grand finals coming next weekend. It's going to be great to see what they can do. And of course, that's our second team that have made their way through.
Yeah,
I think people underestimate that. Like
Yeah.
the ability to go from a team that's getting like 7th and 8th to 2nd and 3rds. When you look at a timeline of a game, it's like there's like about 10-15 seconds difference between them in terms of how long you're actually lasting. But it is a very difficult thing to do.
I think we're nearly ready to go into our next game. I looking at the leaderboard there, I'm seeing Seti and Kemi. They're still in a good spot in terms of getting through to the upper bracket. They're sitting at 11th at the moment. They are getting really far towards the end game. But it just seems like whenever Kami starts to try and go for eliminations, as things get hectic and we get towards the finish line, it's almost like he immediately gets traded out. I don't know if he's just got a little beacon on his head and he's just alerting everyone to his presence, Levin.
It's weird. I think the refreshes have definitely been harder to come by for a lot of teams in these lobbies. It's interesting though, because they don't look like the typical Seti and Kami. If anything, you'd say Pachawa and Vexy have looked a lot like how you'd expect Seti and Kami to be, right? The team consistently stacked in end games, so, you know, in cruise control almost. Whereas these guys, they've needed refreshes a lot in some of those moving zones, which isn't typical of them at all, Mini.
Yeah, it's not at all. And I think what I want to see from this duo now, I want to see them go back to the ways where they were taking the height. They were trying to be a little bit more aggressive in these end games. They weren't just trying to ride out the games as placement, because that's kind of back to what we used to know from this team all the way back early chapter 3. So I think this is a team that just needs to try and take these final 3 games and think, you know what, let's just try and risk it. Realistically, they should qualify through the grand finals through consistency tomorrow if they can get there. But it's all about, why not try doing it now? Why not try taking that risk? You've already got the points in the bag to hopefully guarantee yourself a place tomorrow. So, I mean, yeah, why not?
I also want to give another shout out while we wait to Pablo Bevies and Wingo. Pablo Bevies and Wingo. I just mashed up their names, didn't I? I'm just going to call them the duo now known as Pablo Bevies. Going for height again. Again, just not quite necessarily getting all the details right. Minnie, if there's one thing they could do differently in this next game, what would that be?
Yeah, well, Ward, frankly, it's a really good point. I'm interested to see what they can actually do differently, because they're one of those teams, right, that can pull something out of the hat. They've had some favorable zones right now, and I'm actually impressed as to how well they're doing so far. It's just about being a little bit more conviction in endgame, a little bit more trust in their abilities to get those Storm Surge tactics. Again, we saw that being a problem for them. It's just having a little bit more confidence in the plays that they make, so we'll see that.
Oh, I love working with you guys, Mini Levin, but also I love listening to these guys. So let's head over to Jakarta.
I think I like that. Jakarta? I think I'm liking that. We might brainstorm a couple more names. We'll see what you have for us next game, Frankie. But I'm feeling the duo vibe here. These games have been absolutely outstanding, and you got to give it to Prao and Vexy one more time. The second place curse has finally been broken.
Look, I don't know what we got to do, Jacob, but we got to come up with something. Our predictions have been working. I mean, Malibuca Merstash day 1, Perhoa Vexy now day 2. They had it coming, to be fair, with the amount of, you know, domination they've been showing and consistency in the late game. But it's great to see it finally happen. Yeah,
and see who else in this game. With the consistency that some of these players have been having, it is really good. But now it's time to go for that victory royale, because all that placing's gonna get you is on till tomorrow. But let's get on to the next game. Game 3 is ready. Let's get into it.
Time is now. Game's going quickly as the players have to figure out what they have to change to get that victory royale. We saw a heal off in game 1, but game 2 did not end in a heal off. It ended in action. And to be honest, Jacob, I like those last moments of thrill, but we'll have to see what ends up happening here. Will Pink and Vico be able to get the forecast tower this time? Will Tayson and Venno be able to make it further on into the late game? Well, let's take a look here at Bevies and Pablo, who last game had an issue with Storm Surge.
Yeah, it was real pain of an issue, especially with how some of these early games have been going out with Trulex and Chicho, who were the aggressors in some of those early off-spawn battles against them. But there's one thing I know for sure about Pablo's and Bevies. If they're able to make it past the mid-game, they have as good a shot as any to make it all the way across that finish line. It's just everything in between. It's about minimizing those mistakes and really not getting greedy when you don't have to.
You can see instant aggression from Bevy and Pablo's. Almost mixed up their names there. As Trulex, though, realized quickly somebody's close by. I heard those footsteps. Nice little chuck from that EMP grenade. The shield breaker but can he continue to break the HP as Trulex been cracked?
It's just a good amount of damage and a good amount of utilization of everything that goes down, and he tries to run away, but Pablo cuts him off on the tail end. First elimination is going to get cleaned up. Chicho forced to run away and disengage, and he wastes no time doing it. And you can see in the minimap, they are going to be on the chase, or at least one of the two members. Slowly but surely, they know exactly where he went due to those crash pads. They know he went in the tunnel, and there's another exit on the other side. So the choice is theirs of how they want to approach this fight, or even disengage altogether now that they have Hazy Hillside to themselves.
Look, this is the time I'm hoping, you know, the train just pulls through, does a quick hop up on it, buckle up, take a ride. But we're going to take a ride over to Andalex here. Once again, another duo that got right into action last game, ended up coming out on top with 2 quick eliminations. It's taken a bit longer in this match, but it looks like in terms of positioning, they are up above. They have more opportunities to hunt for those angles, but when your opponents are kind of like turtled up, boxed in, it's very difficult to get them to crack or get that big shot, which allows you to continue pushing forwards.
And you're kind of seeing there on the leaderboard what a fight like this is doing to these two teams. 16 points, 32nd place, and then 0 points, 46th place. There's just not enough loot to go around here, and the longer it takes, which it does seem to draw out more times than not, those teams will tend to go over in that direction. Tricks and Snack trying to take a little bit of that elevation and put shots below before they disengage to try to gather even more loot. But this is one of those situations, is the loot worth as you give up that elevation. So if they turn and try to pressure you, they will have a little bit of an advantage here.
Taking a stroll to the beach as we switch on over to Uguay, 2-time FNCS champ. On the edge of the map now against Puttasine Snazy. And it looks like this is a fight that they're going to want to finish.
Against Puttasine Snazy too, that have been pretty consistent in terms of fighting. Overall though, these are two teams that need to figure out their footing here on the day before it gets too late. You see Puttasine with 2 eliminations already. And you got to imagine a disruption came through to this fight, sitting in 21st place with 52 points. They're inside of the bubble to keep their FNCS journey alive into tomorrow. But it's the win that a lot of these teams are fighting for, so they don't have to play tomorrow, and they can take a week-long break until that grand finals.
Week-long break, but a week-long break where you should be prepping, getting ready, and doing what you can to perform in grand finals. But once again, these little turtle wars from the players boxed up. If you don't hit a big shot, it's not worth it to roll that dice and see if you get a match in terms of the damage you output. So they are going to disengage here and just kind of maybe even look for afar. They have that sniper rifle in hand, so if they are able to connect a big shot, it could be enough, but it's going to be very difficult.
I didn't want to say, I didn't want to curse him. I was trying to wait to see if he can line it up to perfection. Just a little too far away. But this is the fight that we saw not too long ago. I saw on the feed that Snock did go down. Trix is going to be left by himself. You see Andalix trying to cut off one of the only directions he can go to, but separated enough for a 1v1. Sato takes a monster of a shot. It's going to force out the Flowberry Fizz just to get him healthy, which gives Trix time here to either farm up or try to go back for his reboot card. But with only one build being placed, a lot of the stagnant time that he's wasting here is going to bite him at the end of the day if he doesn't continue to try to make moves.
And there it is. Andalex, quick cleanup, little dance. 4 elims now for this duo. Already 16 points on the board just from this match.
Four eliminations, like you said. Take a look at the replay. Con and Chap, they almost was able to solidify high ground in that last game, but the trend did continue. 7 out of 7 games yesterday and today have been won by newly formed duos. And the interesting thing enough, you got to take note, Perhawa and Vexy, 2nd place in game 1 on day 1, they qualified. Yanis and Flixie, 3rd place in game 1, they qualified. If I had to keep going down the list, Wheat and Shimoki will be next, and I got to give a huge shout out to Alden, Prodigy Analytics overall, for breaking down the stats and bringing me as much knowledge as I can get. So let's see what else he can throw at us throughout FNCS.
What do we do without him? What would we do? Kiduo, Hero. I see 2 elims, and I saw a free forecast tower. It makes me believe that Pink and Vico might have been taken out. And the ones with the vision of the upcoming zones is going to be Kiro and Kiduo.
I'm just trying to see if they actually do pick up the sniper, and Kiro actually does opt to take it. You know, I like this duo. Every time I'm playing with somebody like, yo, give me the snipe, give me the snipe. This guy's like, yo, you can take it. I see what you're capable of. You can pop some shots, and that's where, you know, teams like this, the roles are defined. It's not about greedy. It's not about making the play. It's about making the play as a team overall. But it does look like Vision Bro is trying to make one for himself, and it goes sideways just like that. The Predator, the Hunter, becomes the hunted towards the side, and Marco at a distance. He probably saw that one coming, but not able to get the communication through. Mahi was the one that disrupted that sneaky play, and just immediately disengages on out. They got some surge. They said, we got what we came for. Now let's get out.
Could have been a lot worse for Vision. Luckily enough, he did not get hit by a sniper rifle. It was just a couple shots from the AR. Something you can scratch off your shoulders. For Skydune and Shakos, they are in an engagement which could get a little risky here as the zone just closes on them. The players in the surroundings have already started the rotation, and they're going to decide to take the safer route, tank a bit of storm, but get into zone safely.
And they do have the med kits, so that's not too much of a worry. The only real one that I have is the storm sickness, the damage that they are taking overall. How much of a role would that play in the end? We've already seen it affect the heal off once today. Wouldn't say too much because Yanis had more than enough med kits for a couple of end games, so it didn't really change the trajectory, but you see it really play an impact. Chap and Khan with already 2 eliminations, off to a great start for them. Doesn't look like too many teams are in their vicinity, so they're gonna have an easy rotation in this next zone before their weapon caches start to appear.
Zone pulling a little bit more south this time around. We've had a lot of snowy zones around the hillsides. Now getting closer to Ruined Reels, quite centered. As we take a look at Veno and Tayson, who don't have too many duos in the surrounding area, but there is builds, there was action. You can see that there is one close by though. It's Bevy and his duo partner. Quick scope, but it's not gonna land from Veno. And he's gonna continue trailing behind Tayson.
And you can already see what they have in mind. They want to go for those loot caches towards the edge of zone. Chap and Khan maybe trying to fight over one, but that's nonetheless, that's possible points that they see in their future if they're able to continue the aggressive trend that they have. And they see the medallion getting passed along, so you got to know the players are weak. Shots breaking through, and they make it look easy. Chap and Khan with their 4th eliminations as a duo so far, and they're playing lights out here in this game.
Quick cleanup onto Marius and Sangild. You know they're feeling happy now. Loot to spare on the ground. I'd like to see kind of exactly where they are positioned in the zone to see if they can even use those extra materials. But for Cammy and Seti now, still close to where they start off the match with their loot path here. Looks like they haven't journeyed too far. They haven't needed to, as the zone has pulled so far south. It already put them on the uncongested side here, so they've had the freedom to max up on materials, to max up on all the loot in the surrounding areas. But all that's left is to take those shots and do damage on the players around them.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for that one pop-off moment to come out of Cammy and Seti. It's a moment we all know that they have in them. Just unable to really make it to those heal-offs. They're more than stacked along the way, but Cammy at 2 different moments got picked off with all the heals. First time he was able to pass him over to Seti, but he wasn't able to utilize him. The second time, they got way too separated. So they weren't, again, able to utilize a lot of what they were able to gather through the game. As we jump on board Chicho. We saw how Trulex go down literally in the beginning of the game, and Chicho's been a solo ever since, sneaking around this same location. Even if he managed to get Trulex's reboot card with his own pulling over, he's going to have to wait for all of these teams to leave before he even has a chance to make it come to fruition.
Look, the good news for Chicho is, as you can see, 3 med kits, 2 floppers now, even a spare med kit in this bunker. I think his game plan here is kind of wait it out, let the zone close a little bit as the duos rotate away, and then he'll go with a reboot. For Chapix, though, and his duo partner, looks like they might have just secured a quick elimination here. Also on the edge of zone, but looking incredibly healthy.
And just seeing the mythic hyper SMG, I wonder if they have the medallion to go along with it, because that'll definitely bolster their end game, especially in a situation like this where the snipe shot comes through but no healing. So that one's been confirmed. Ugwe, no medallion for you, no HP really either, and it's counting down so fast, even though a one tick, because they're inside of the storm. So he's gonna have to quickly try to reunite with his teammate and figure out how they're going to get the heals back on up, because you see his duo doesn't have full HP either. So it's almost like they're stuck between a rock and a hard place with more rotation to go.
Makes it even more difficult that they have to cross the little river. It's going to cause them to most likely use more materials if they get stopped mid-grapple blade. Rift Island now appearing. You can see the duos that are ready to instantly build on up and get there. But they have opponents in the surrounding area trying to stop them. Although it looks like they will be able to make it. But at what cost?
Yep. A lot of builds being expended. Luckily, there's plenty of material up here for them to get, as long as they remain uncontested. But there's still a couple teams down low on the low ground. Particularly the one that was shooting those shots and has to know he at least isn't the most healthy in terms of materials as he made his way up there. But nobody really contesting just yet. I think without the mid-match objective points, teams don't really see it as a very, very good part of their strategy. It's not worth it to go up there and fight. And then you add in the fact that there's no reboot van up here. So it's a little bit more loose for a lot of the teams that go for it more times than not.
Rift Island secured. I believe it was even in a pretty good position in zone, so they should have enough time to kind of recuperate the materials that they used to get that Rift Island early. Now taking a look at Sato and Alex, you can see already 4 elims on the board. They do not need any damage soon, so they've put themselves in a very safe location. And I mean, Sato could be, he could even, you know, be using the bathroom right now and he wouldn't even know.
I hope not, though. Can you imagine Andalex getting stressed, seeing somebody rotate in his direction? Please come back. Please come back. Well, they got themselves, you can see the edge of zone is there, kind of on the mini-map towards the bottom left of it. So you know the zone is pulling in this direction. So I like the idea to kind of wait, especially since you mentioned the 4 elimination surge isn't necessarily going to be a worry for them. They're just trying to stay still. They don't want any teams to come in their direction. They don't want to become the focus of anybody wanting to rotate and try to steal away what is now the slow side of the zone.
Only thing that could take him out would be a sky base, but luckily Merstash Malabuka have already qualified, so it's looking good. Slove X Suisse now. Pleasant Piazza. Quite a congested area. You can see at the bottom right on the mini map. There's a lot of duos kind of boxed around not only the Rift Island to make use of those rifts in terms of mobility, if it's a route that they choose, but also just on the hills. And look at this, Jacob. Chicho, how long has he been playing as a solo? He might not even have the reboot card now that I think about it, but I mean, being in the zone, I could only think that that's why he stayed here so long. But if he hasn't rebooted already, I don't think he's going to.
Yeah, and then kind of the fact that they land here, got pushed away by Pablo and Bevies, so he's kind of hoping there's going to be scraps left by his Darm and Raxi, just trying to go ahead and take this 2v1 while they do have the opportunity. Continue to pressure their opponent down low, further and further towards the low grounds where there's very few options and they get separated. This is the chance to strike back, but finally they get a chance to reunite. Bafo keeps trying to escape, but the final shot finally going to come in. And now you can see the rewards, 185 worth of that Flowberry Fizz, more than enough utility to continue on in this game. And they have options here. They can go up, they can use the launch pads, they can use the rifts, they can use their grapple blades. It's definitely more than enough choices that I feel like any one person knows what to do with.
Options are what you want in Fortnite. Opening up those opportunities as Vision and Marco now. We'll see here what the Storm Surge threshold is looking like. 50 above. That's not enough, Jacob.
Now it's not a feeling of comfortability at all, and even taking some shots, trying to peek through, and that's Andalex and Sato. They've been positioned here almost from the start of the game because of those 4 eliminations they were able to get very, very early on. Zone continues to move in this direction, but it all is really dependent on Vision Bro and Marco, how aggressive they actually want to be. And honestly, there wasn't necessarily be a bad situation to be in. The heals aren't necessarily the most fruitful for Andalex and Sato. So just a nice, well-placed shot, if they do want to continue to engage, would be the key.
They know that their opponents are hungry for damage right now, so they don't want to let shots get taken onto them, but Andalex is going to do exactly that. 128 above now as he starts popping a shield, and the aggression continues, but that snipe headshot taking Vision out. Marco shortly after. What a play from Sato.
And he really baited him in. Snipe head. We've seen the opportunities one too many times, but let's check that one out from Sato. He lined this one up perfectly. Look at the patience coming out. And as soon as he saw those shots peek through, he knew they were going to get aggressive. One headshot, line it up, and Marco just was unable to survive. Two angles, Sato and Andalex end that one rather quickly, and now that's going to be their 6th set of eliminations at a duo.
Disgusting shot to put them right back into the comfortable position they were in earlier on. Blaha Yapko, though, not in the zone yet. There's a lot of duos in the surrounding area. In these situations, you have some options. Do you let the other duos rotate first and follow behind with the builds they've already taken? Do you try and be the first one? Normally not the best idea in this case, but being 86 below, Yapko and Blaha are doing a good job of taking shots from these duos that are rotating in. The issue is once they make it in, first thing they're going to do, box up and look right back at you and continue taking those shots.
They landed a couple, but still not enough to feel comfortable. 40 below the damage threshold. Rotating to zone, though, bypassing a lot of the congestion and giving themselves a spot to where they can still peek in that direction, but still feel a little bit safe knowing there's a little space between them and the next duo. But just outside of the zone, Yapko's going to have to reunite with Blaha before, but they give up the elevation in their current position, which kind of minimizes the amount of teams that they were once able to visualize.
Right now, their focus, I don't think is even too much about their exact elevation or positioning. Ideally, they could even be positioned close to a lot of duos because they need that damage, but unfortunately for X-Sweets and Slove, they are the ones right now that are getting focused by all these players that have been based up and need that damage as well, but the trade comes through. Yapko gets the knock. Or did he? He did get the knock, but he has to be careful because aggressing into that would most likely not be worth it.
Yeah, you got to imagine so, especially with another team right next to him on the other side and a couple more in towards the zone. Finally going to heal up, push on over, hoping that the pressure has stopped. The Slove's getting backed up into the zone, and I talked about that third team shooting shots in that direction, but they're still going to come out with what they came for, and that's all that loot, especially since the damage they took just to get above the damage threshold when it comes to Storm Surge.
Did a great job healing up, getting ready, and then going in to secure that finish and continue moving forward. So you can see zone has pulled even further north. 7th zone now. 8th one will be appearing shortly. You can see the amount of duos that are on the south side here that all have to rotate up north. Taking a look though at what happened on the edge of the zone. Nice quick refresh for Weed and Shimoki though. Dead. Straight line through the center.
Yeah, those are those things you just kind of get caught off guard. You kind of get so focused on one fight. A team can easily sneak up and stop the celebration in progress. Weed and Shimoki, 2 eliminations, 219 above. They're looking good, but Seti and Cammy are the entire opposite. 126 below the damage threshold. Not a situation that you see them in very often, but finally Cammy was able to sneak his way in, land a couple of shots just to get themselves barely above a hair. 23 damage. And that's why you can see him continuously on the look, trying to shoot some shots on over with the Enforcer. A couple are going to land, but you can still see they're not comfortable when it comes to the amount of damage that they have. Even so, they fall below yet again. It's just a jockeying for position, the risk that you're taking in order to get the shots.
Pulling zone to the spot you dropped in on the map can be a blessing, but also a curse. You could see Cammy and Seti pulled the zones, and it caused them to get a lot of freedom to loot up, get the materials that they need, but also being on the uncongested side, there wasn't a lot of duos that rotated by them or even rotated to them with that zone that was pulled, so they didn't have a lot of options to get those tags and get that damage earlier on, and now they're forced to do it in situations that are just that much more risky.
Yeah, you can see as the dust settles, everything slows down. They're able to kind of have a little bit of confidence, 80, but as I say that, they drop to 53. Bevy's trying to rotate on through. He had to leave Pablo way far behind. He's now getting attacked by Uguay and his duo. Tayson trying to go ahead of zone as well, along with Veno. Everybody having to make a far rotation, and look how crowded that zone currently is, and they're not even inside it just yet.
Tayson crawling, trying to make his way in here. Veno is still up. They have to focus on grouping up, playing together, and being 20 above. What's next on the task list is get that damage done. But you have to be careful because a lot of the duos in this lobby have the same task on their list. They all need damage. They all need those tags. As the storm starts taking, the damage starts coming through. The players need to get something done.
You can see they're just trying to save the medkits for as long as possible. Flowberry Fizz coming out to try to stop some of the damage of Storm Surge, but they get paused momentarily. Another team has them on the line of sights. That's Raxi, that's Darm. Pika shot through, not able to connect, but Veno peeks out the side, gets just enough damage for Storm Surge to stop taking them down. That gives them a chance to heal up, but again, they fall below. And it goes to show how active this lobby is. Everybody on the line of Storm Surge fighting tooth and nail to try to get any scraps of it. Even Veno kind of stuck, forced to rotate while damage is being done. This is his chance as he goes over Blaha. Another team goes on right past. Veno unable to connect with any shots, still suffering to the damage of Storm Surge.
Getting cracked from Storm Surge, allowing your opponents to know that you're ticking right now and you're an option to prey on, as Veno has been forced into one of the most difficult situations you can be in. But luckily enough, as hopes were low, 8 above, he might just be able to keep on going. Grapple Blade put to good use to rotate ahead. Tayson has been taken out. It's all up to Veno.
Oh, this is one of those situations where Veno just scraps, nothing left. He's going to try to make a big play here. Looks up towards height, lines the sniper. Doesn't really get any opportunity to go for a shot, but persistence is key. We've seen it already on a play today by Sato, and a nice shot, 41. Still below the damage threshold, though. Veno needs to be able to do more damage, and it has to come from sneaking up on another team.
This could be it. There's a lot of opportunities here. Everybody's rotating through. It's already 10 zone. High ground is trying to get overthrown here as he drops one player, but is unable to connect enough shots. Still 27 below. Grapple Blade coming through now on one of the most congested layers. So many duos in the surrounding area. With 33 builds, he has a bit of time to hold on.
Now he gets a little sigh of relief. He gets elimination along the way, but Storm Surge still right on his tail, along with a couple of other duos. Seti and Cammy, 10 HP. Floppers being passed. Win condition probably out the window because of that, as Cammy goes down yet again here in the end game, leaving it all up to Seti to try and clutch, and he's going to need an elimination. He's going to have to find some heals if he's looking to take this game.
No heals to work with, 7 builds to work with. Something aggressive has to come from Seti here. Does he stagger on the back of the zone, or does he go directly into a solo that he finds? Veno, another solo trying to clutch it up on the edge of Storm here with a lot of options. He finds an opponent that's white, an opponent that has no shields. This could be it.
This could be the opportunity here. You see them all around. Robin and Medax, they're going to be one smooth sailing on the high ground. Nobody looking up as Veno looks back to the lobby as he gets taken down. Seti still holding strong, but out of materials. You see him looking all around, trying to figure out how he's going to get up this mountain, mantling one way after another, but finally gets the focus. Shots are going to come through. He's going to get dropped by Misha.
Kiduo with 2, duo partner up. All they need is chemistry. As one shot gets connected, it's Pixie that gets taken out. That's 3 on the board now, and there's another duo below.
This is big. Kiduo and Kiro, they've been more than enough. Forecast tower after forecast tower. They just have to be able to close this game out. They already have 3 eliminations, multiple win kit, multiple win scenarios set in mind. They just need to pick one and hold on to it.
Medax and Robin up above in the clouds, 3 med kits. This could be the win condition. This could be enough to play the heal off. All they have to do is apply pressure on the duos that are second height, on the players that are looking to overthrow them. But Nipsey is not looking to overthrow height. He wants this layer, going for the aggression, going for the elims, but his duo partner's been taken out. Nipsey as well cracked down to 32 HP.
I saw the med kit drop as well. His teammate had all the heals in terms of HP, but he immediately gets cut down by Scroll. Kiruo, who has more than enough medkits. Look at that. Kiro gets them all dropped to him by Kiruo. You count them up, 8 different medkits. This could be a shot, but Kiro, there's a lot of pressure knowing how you have to play, when to go back in his zone, and calculating storm sickness.
Kiruo just needs to apply pressure to the team on height. He cannot permit them to heal, but he gets taken out. Maddox now has the freedom for the heal off. It's 3 medkits, 1 flopper in the inventory, but it might not be enough as Howley takes out Robin and the heal offs begin.
Now Howley's trying to go on the hunt. He's trying to play Disruptor. The Frizzy's gonna go down as well. This drops down into a 1v1 scenario for the game. Manax has a couple medkits, but Sky has 2. All those medkits early on in the game went right out the window. Where was the 8 as Medax finds yet another grouping of medkits? 5 total still left in his inventory. That's gonna leave it on up to Sky. They have 9 eliminations, him and Scroll as a duo, but it's win and you're in. The last medkit is going to be used, but on the other side, he has more than enough medkits. He can open up a clinic. He can spread some around the lobby. He can take the game along with it. And Takada, that continues the trend on the day. Every single game won today was through high ground compared to yesterday and those low ground performances.
Perfectly executed by Madax. Not only had the 3 medkits to go back in zone, but as they were rotating in, as that last moving zone was closing, they were marking the medkits that were being dropped. They were finding the players that were being eliminated and dropping those heals, and that is exactly where Madax went to once the heal off started, and that is what permitted him to get the win.
I'm just wondering what happened to Kiro. What happened? There was 8 medkits. He could have started the heal off last game and still won it in this one. Madax, he looked like he was gonna run out, but he found 3 different medkits as well. High ground wins games. High ground is qualifying these teams to the grand finals, and it's only a wonder if that trend will continue.
Look, medkits are winning games in my eyes here, but you know, with the newly formed duos qualifying, the confidence is at an all-time high for these players.
Yeah, and I got to imagine where you're at on the leaderboard in these next couple games may have you feeling even more confident or wondering how I'm going to make it till tomorrow. But let's take a look at the leaderboard and break down all that action with Levin, Minnie, and Frankie.
Thank you very much, guys. Congratulations to Robin and Madax for becoming kings of the high ground and therefore kings of the victory royale in game number 3. And as the boys pointed out, it's now become a pattern. If you can assure that high ground dominance and make sure you've got the refreshes to boot, the victory is guaranteed. I mean, it kind of feels like a flawless plan, really, Mini Miner.
Yeah, it does. And a little quiz here. Do you guys want to know where these guys were placed before they won this game? Anyone want to guess?
48.
Last. Completely last place. 0 points. 50th place these guys were in before this game, and that just shows that this format can really bring some magical moments. These guys had an absolute nightmare of spawn, but they've made it into the end game. They've made it into those final stages, and I like the confidence. I like the ability. I like the guts, if you like, just to go onto height, being the first people, or their first time, I suppose, into that end game today. So we've seen them do it in the lower bracket yesterday. Once again, they managed to get a win here, 11.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite the come up story, right? To be in dead last place is impressive, and to be honest, it's very impressive that the first lower bracket team to actually make it up, right? So that we're finally starting to see those teams that were playing yesterday and we didn't quite get to watch start to have an impact. So really big congrats to them. It's going to be their first ever grand finals as well, right? So it's a massive win. I'm sure they will be on top of the moon. And you were talking about patterns, you're talking about trends, Frankie. 8 out of 8 teams that have qualified through to the grand final so far have been newer formed duos. For all these old heads who have been playing together for a long time, they might have to start rethinking everything because there's clearly a pattern going on it.
No. Don't you dare give Cami and Seti ideas. They're staying together. They're staying together forever. Polska Gura will have Poland on your back if you're not careful, 11-2K. Let's take a look at the leaderboard, though. It wasn't the best game for Cami and Seti, but listen, I'm still believing, boys. I'm still believing. You know who else I'm believing in right now? I'm believing in Kira and Kajuru because they have had so much success over the forecast towers. They seem to be winning those battles against Pink and Vico, which is an intimidating fight to take on. And I feel like they got a bit unlucky, Levin, in those final fights.
Yeah, you know, Jacob was quite bewildered about it himself, right, in terms of what went wrong for them. they're clearly a team that has their sort of their eyes on the prize and are doing quite a good job. You mentioned the sort of battle between them, you know, and Pink and Vico and that dynamic. You know, I know yesterday Pink and Vico were putting in a lot of extra hours way deep into the night to try and, you know, best these guys and outplay them. So, you know, it's clearly quite a fierce rivalry going on right now. So we'll see sort of how that develops and whether or not they get a couple more chances to put themselves in winning positions.
Yeah, I mean, there's one thing trying to get that forecast tower, the next thing actually using that to your advantage. And for these guys right now, it's just about trying to close out those games a little bit more effective way. It's tough to know exactly what's exactly going wrong in the end games, maybe a little bit of miscommunication at times. But for this UI, I'm expecting big things from them. If they don't qualify today, let's see what they can do tomorrow, because they're one of those teams that we would expect to be in grand finals.
Now, there's another team that we'd expect to be in the grand finals, and they can still make it even if they don't get a victory royale today. And it hurts my heart to say this, but it's Venno and Tayson Levin. And you know Venno really, really well. You gave a great explanation as to why this duo is potentially not clicking quite yet at the start of the show today. But they're still not quite where they want to be in game tonight either. What's going on?
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, I'll give another tidbit here. I did speak to their coach yesterday, Bloodaxe, and I asked him, you know, how his day went. He's got a lot of duos that he coaches, right? A lot of them who still need to make the grand finals. And I asked him, which duo are you most worried about? And the one he actually said was Venno and Tayson. And you'd probably argue that they're the best one that he's got, right? You know, in terms of the talent there. So I think they really have to start figuring things out. I hope they'll get there. I'm starting to lose hope on them getting a win today.
Yeah, a little bit the same as well. And I think we're seeing a lot of the same sort of problems as yesterday. Just two big individuals that know how to play the game, just clashing a little bit at the key moments.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens after this major cycle, no matter where they get in the grand finals or not the grand finals. I have a feeling there might be a bit of a change up, but I don't want to write them off just yet. They could come back and they could get one of the two remaining victory royales and therefore instant passes to the grand finals tonight. Just two more though to go. So let's get into game number 4 with Jacob PR and Takata.
Thank you so much, Frankie. Look, a lot of big names, Jacob, that have yet to qualify. They were talking about it on the desk. Venno, Tayson, Vico, Pink. Look, the good news is there's still 2 games to be played out. They still just need to get that victory royale. But the even better news is they have day 3 if they make it to top 25 on that leaderboard and make it to day 3, which is qualification through consistency. But what we want to see are those qualifications through the victory royale.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a different game plan in which they set out to going into this tournament. But let's see if that continues here. Game 4 and a chance to rise to the top.
Nerves begin to rise now as the players are running low on options, especially the ones in the lower half of the leaderboard, which will be dropped down to the lower bracket tomorrow if they don't end up getting that victory royale. But anything is possible. Mini Miner said it, from dead last on the leaderboard to a victory royale and a golden ticket to the grand finals. That's what I love about this format.
Yeah, just kind of rewards players really to step up to the plate and knock it out of the park, as Trulex and Chicho have finally switched up their draw spot. Going on over to Ruin Reels this time around. Still contested though. They're just hoping this is a much different fight, and it already looking like Trulex getting the first knock, and with Chicho having a good loadout for off spawn, I feel like they're going to close in on the distance and close this fight out quickly.
Turns into a 1 versus 1. Both players have a duo knocked down. Waffle though gets finished, and now Chicho makes the decision. Does he go and pick up Trulex, turning it into a 2 versus 1? Or does he continue the aggression and try and find the elimination? The opponent is not going to let him pick it up. Aggression is the only option, and it pays off.
I like the thought process, trying to backtrack and go for the elimination, but just a straight line right into Chicho, and his SMG takes him down out of the lobby, and very, very successful right out of the gates. And depending on where they're at on the leaderboard, due to their rough start going against Pablo and Bevies, it might come down to a top 2 finish plus back-to-back top 2s if they want to stay in the upper bracket, or just a win in these next 2 games. And these guys have shown it in the Global Championship, contested out of every single game in the finals. They still pulled out a top finish.
Curious to see when we see Kiddo and Kiro what's happened in terms of eliminations. Do they have 0? Has there been an engagement? As so far, it looks like they are just focused on looting. No elims on the board. Curious to what is happening in the surrounding area as they continue to kind of just rotate through here.
Yep, Teeny taking down Ryzen and Sky Jump. 2 players down immediately, and I think everybody's still kind of wondering. The 8 mid kits on the Kiro. He just kind of got pounced on, I do believe. Lost those med kits and a huge opportunity to win that last game. And you can kind of see Artem at the bottom, Snazzy Podicide towards the top. Kind of separated. So an opportunity for a 2v1 if they want to drop down, but they also leave themselves very, very susceptible to shots. And only if they knew it was just a hyper SMG. It's not going to do too much damage.
It's not going to do too much unless you get up close and personal. So as right now, both duos kind of look around, figure out what the game plan is. Whether it be continuing to farm up or getting those tags needed to keep pushing on through. As Artem now is just one quick shot away from being knocked down, but he can put us like connected in time. It looks like no, he cannot. Or yes, he can. There it is. That's one knock. 2v1 now, Jacob. Tables have turned.
Yeah, that was Snazy on the other side. Kind of using the shots in tandem to go for the knock, but it's Uguay and Tino on the other side trying to close in on the distance. Even though they might not get credit for both eliminations, you got to imagine they're much more looted up than their opposition. And for Snazy and Podicide, it actually might be best to stay over in this position, especially now knowing you can see those builds into the distance and know that that third party is there. The knock goes on over. The revive comes through, so there's no longer points for Snazy and Podicide. That gets stolen away. What a brilliant play coming out of Tino and Uguay to get those valuable points for the leaderboard.
They said that elimination is ours. Uguay now to Gino, racking up those points earlier on. And look at their loadout as well. Already have a legendary Nemesis AR, Grapple Blade, Hammer Pump. I mean, yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know how their opponent here is going to come out on top in this situation. Quick cleanup, 2 elims on the board. And now you can even see on the minimap, a third party could be looking to take some shots.
I wonder how long they were following Cross, but a fight that I feel like everybody's been invested in since game 1. Pink and Vico, Kiduo and Kiro. And they kind of traded off being able to get this forecast tower underneath their control. Last game went to Kiro and his duo. And you can kind of see them toying around with the idea of disengaging. It almost looks like it's going to be a fake out with one of the teammates still up above. One of them's kind of acting like he's running away. And I think Pika Vico knows somebody might still be around here, so they're being very, very careful not to get caught off guard.
They know, and Kiro has been found. If they take this quick enough, it could be a 2v1, but Kiduo has made it back in time. The good news for Pink and Vico is they have that HP and shield advantage. The bad news is they haven't got that knock yet, but they look like they are under control.
And you can see they drop immediately down low. For them, it's not high ground that matters here in this fight. It's keeping control of the NPC that spawns with the forecast and the ability to grab it right away. So Kiro and Kiduo are going to have to fight from the top down if they're looking to push Pink and Vico out. A lot of shots being traded off. Nobody really finding any success so far.
Nice little pyramid edit here. But Kiro knows, and he hits the huge shot, cracking Vico, going right into his box, getting the knock. Now 2v1. Kiro, though, gets knocked as well, turns into a 1v1. The situation has been balanced, but the pressure is on.
I'm like, is it a 1v1? The NPC immediately spawns and set Pink as his line of sight, going through the back end as well. Pink finally able to survive, and it almost looks like a trade, a down for down trade. This fight will continue. Medkits to go around between Kiro and Kiduo, but it's just a matter of the shield. It doesn't look like they have bunch, but they go right back into the fight. Both players are dropped down to just a sliver of HP, and there's not enough heals to go around for either one of these teams. So a well-placed shot here could be the end of somebody's run.
You said it yourself, Jacob. All it's going to take here is one big shotgun shot, and that could be what takes this engagement to an end. But so far, a little time to breathe and a little time to find that angle.
Yeah, it does look like Pink and Vico, with the amount of control they were able to garner early on before, I believe, Kiro and Kiduo got in this position. They're going to get the forecast tower. Now it's about survival to really make that forecast tower count. And you see not a ton of shotgun shots if this one ends up continued into a prolonged fight. There are still a couple NPCs there that you can get loot from, but it's not really going to be much. And that's why you see Kiro and Kudo eyeing the disengage coming out. Even though Kiro's still staying behind, they might be trying to go for a back-to-back fake. How many times do you think this will work?
The back-to-back. I mean, it looks like we're not going to get to see, as Pink and Vico have decided. Ultimately, it is not worth it. And we are going to disengage, but be careful. Kiduo now could use this as an opportunity to strike, as Vico has been cracked. Just one quick shot could be enough. 28 white now. He's on a sliver of HP. All it's going to take is a breath to eliminate Vico here.
Oh, he's doing such a good job fighting back, though. Monster of a shot there on the other side. No builds left. He can't even fight for piece control. And there goes Kiro on the other side. Down goes Vico. And now it's so crucial for Pink to stay alive. He cannot be a hero in this position. Otherwise, the forecast tower goes out the window.
This is tragic for Pink and Vico, as Pink has been left alone as a solo now. With the amount of HP he has, they used a lot of materials, a lot of consumables in that engagement, so basically no loot, basically no materials, now not even in the zone. If he wants to go back and try and pick up Vico, bring him back into the match, it's going to use up a lot of time. We're going to have to see a Malibuca Meristache comeback if we want Pink and Vico to win this match.
Kind of looking around the map, seeing that a couple of spots did open up due to some of our team's early win. Vexy and Perhawa were uncontested towards the north side. Yanis and Flixie were contested with Scroll and Sky over towards Reckless Railways. So definitely have a lot of opportunity to kind of move in and take away these spots that have shown success, but it's not necessarily the spots, it's how you execute when you're playing these games out. And this where you see another rotation coming through from Teeny and Misha, going towards the lower end, bypassing Pleasant Piazza. They're just trying to get their weapon cache. Everybody around the map on these edges are going to be looking for the same thing.
Earlier on, it was the battle for the forecast towers. Now the battle for the combat caches as the box fights come through. Sandguild Marius now forced into one close to the lavish layer. Popping shields, making sure they're at 200 effective HP and shield. But the issue with these engagements, as rotates come through, you can see in the mini-map at the bottom right how many duos are in the surrounding area and how risky it can get.
Yeah, we saw a couple of zones like this yesterday over towards lavish layer, and there's a lot of opportunity to hide in these buildings if we do continue to move in this direction. Cache can be opened up, getting the pick of the litter when it comes to loot. Shakos and Sky Dune down below. Not really wanting to fight downward. They're happy with their position for now, but got to be careful at the top of the mountain. Another team beginning to focus in that direction, put some shots in. Still about 3 more zones to continue the trend in what we've seen with Storage Surge activating. So you got to be as proactive as possible. That way you're not fighting on the back foot when it does start to become a thing.
Take a look at what happened with Chap and Khan here. They've been playing very well aggressively, getting into late games with a good amount of eliminations, and it looks like this game won't be any different. Already picking up 2, and it was even such a quick one that they did not lose too much shield or materials.
Curve trying to run away. Nice shots by Pixie and Walks, and it does look like with the damage and the idea that he is a solo, they're trying to continue to follow right in his tracks. But I think with that slight turn off the other end, he backtracked. They're going to lose sight of him, but sight of somebody else, and another shield being drained just like that. Pixie and Walks are on a terror looking for Storm Surge.
.40 seconds left till 4th zone appears. You can see that this could be the option. Once they hear those shots come through, they know they have the potential to make the third party happen. And this is incredibly dangerous for Curb and even the other duo in place. As long as they stay together, this could be enough.
Yeah, there's a huge strength in numbers, and you can see everything kind of turned on its side. A team that was once low ground has a chance to disengage. Medallion being tossed aside from Pixie to Walks, trying to save as many of those shields as possible, whether it's Big Pots, Minis, or even the Flowberry Fizz. Everybody else disengaging out of this position. So the aggressors kind of left empty-handed here in terms of Pixie and Walks.
Looking back, Kiduo Kiro still with that one elimination they got onto Vico. We can see Pink is actually close. Kiduo looks like he marked him. They found him. Now all it's gonna take is a couple shots, one more, and it's gonna end up with Pink's demise. As now Kiduo from above looking to see if he can break on in. And Pink needs a miracle to happen if he wants to eliminate both of these players.
Yeah, I thought the miracle was finding the elimination right before we tuned in. That's how he's able to get the heals and the resources to fight this one off, but no shields, about 50 HP. Kiduo returns to get revenge for stealing their forecast tower, taking down Pink, taking down Vico earlier on in the same game. They strike again, and you can see they're towards the backside of zone, even though they need the heals. With those EMP grenades, it's almost like an instant fishing rod with a lot of these fishing spots. All the fish instantly come out, floppers, small fry, and shield fish.
Trying to think if Con and Chap here are sitting here because of the spare loot, or if they want a duo to kind of wander on in, thinking that they can find some spare loot, would find a duo waiting for them. They are on the east side of the zone here, close to Lavish Lair, a bit more up north on the map, so I don't think there'll be as many duos rotating through here. They should have quite a bit of freedom in terms of rotations. Protini and Misha, though, a lot more south by the Pleasant Piazza, and you can see more duos in the surrounding area here, but it opens up more options as well to take those shots, although they do already have 2 eliminations, so not too much pressure on their shoulders.
Not much at all. You can see them just kind of rotating on out, ready for the next stage of their journey. But Vino seems to be under pressure. 2v1, Tayson trying to catch up. That's Jerdy and Nipsey on the other side. Finally, they reunite in the same box. Medallion being passed over. Medkit is going to be used next to try to get him as healthy as possible. And almost a lost opportunity by Jerdy and Nipsey by letting this one go for free. But you know as well as I do, sometimes the risk isn't necessarily worth the reward. Go down early. In these reboot style rounds where it's win and you're in, and with only 2 games left, those opportunities are quickly going out the window.
Leno and Tayson gonna fizz each other up, get right back to almost 200 effective HP and shield, but also use that boost they get in terms of mobility to continue rotating through. But with their positioning, they shouldn't have too much to worry about. Looking over the Rift Island, though, Howley, Nefrigio.
Yeah, Zone's about to pull away from Rift Island as well. Cammy and Seti, like I said, Nefrizzi and Howley on the other side, kind of hanging on to what they can in terms of Rift Island. It's Cammy this time around not gathering as many HP heals as he did before, dropping them, trying to go back. Have to be very, very mindful of the amount of Storm Surge that you're taking in these games, because it kind of switches up the role, who plays for heal off, who goes down to play Disruptor. But Cammy said, you know, there's at least one other team still boxed up here. We have to deal with them first, or at least figure out what they're doing before we can make our move. Otherwise, we kind of leave ourselves open to getting tagged up on our way to zone.
Exactly. It's kind of like that game of chicken, you know, where first player to rotate out is going to be the victim of the shots by the duo that's waiting for them to rotate. Seti and Cammy just continuing to wait, as it looks like Nefrizzi and Howley doing exactly the same. For Mixit and Ping, though, you know, I like this base. This is actually, this is interesting. Kind of like the setup. It opens up a lot of flexibility. 360-degree look on the opponents rotating through, making use of the edited cones.
Oh, you see them using the smart pistol as well, locking on to those enemies that may not necessarily see it coming. Free surge for them, and because they're so high up, look how easy it is to get damage on these players are rotating with the grapple blade, with the crash pads. This is something I've seen pulled out yesterday, and haven't really seen it in too many games leading up to this, but that's kind of what you save a lot of those strategies for, moments like this, and immediately knowing they're going to rotate, they switch those weapons back on over, picks up his striker, and he's ready for the next stage.
I mean, it paid off. 500 above almost. Now Tayson and Veno, you can see as the match goes on and more players start to get damage, they also start going to the least congested side. As you can see, there's a lot of duos here trying to rotate up north, sorry. The issue is, with all the water, it makes it a bit more difficult. If you do have the grapple blade, it can benefit you and help out, but so far, they're based up. They're gonna refarm, what they used in terms of brick and materials and wait from there.
Yeah, zone's gonna open up. Players tend to spread out when the zone does open up, so Benno Tayson is probably biding their time, waiting for a lot more flexibility in this end game. But Misha and Teeny, they're going up against a whole nother duo. They're ready to get aggressive, break into the box, but it's only Misha who goes down. But a lot of damage being done. Both players drop to about 50 HP. Well-played shots from Teeny. He can still win this, but pulls out the AR at the worst possible time, trying to break the pills. They edit in and take him on out. Misha, Teeny, they go down here in game 4 and basically leave it all on the line in our final game of the day.
Fishy Nitrox coming out on top in terms of this engagement. Now full materials, but have a rotation to do, and there's already so many duos that are boxed up in the zone. They're gonna have to be pretty cautious when they start moving on in. iDrop's Nebs, one of the duos that's already based up, looking around. We'll see now how much damage they're looking to do. With only 14 above, they are not safe at all.
They almost welcome moments like this where teams begin to shoot shots in their direction, because at least it lets them know who's willing to take that challenge. You see him building up the other side of his cover, knowing that this is where it's going to take a lot of his primary focus, give himself more space to work with. 44 above isn't much, but at least they're progressing upward when it comes to Storm Surge.
Looking for some options down below. A lot of the times when these duos are taking those shots onto your box, applying the pressure, it kind of opens up that option for you to take a trade. Although you do have to have a good amount of spare shields if you want to risk it. But sometimes when you're desperate to do damage and you're below surge, it could be one of the only options. Camiseti kind of in a almost isolated location, not completely boxed up by a lot of duos, and this is a bad zone for a lot of the players now. You can see it pulled directly up north. Rotations have to come through from almost everyone as they already start to begin their journey.
I'd be asking my duo right now, you brought your Rada rings, you ready to swim? This isn't a vacation, but it's going to be a triathlon, whether you're going land, sea, or air to try to get to zone. For Seti and Cammy, though, I will say they're poised to only have to worry about the rotation. 233rd above the damage threshold, but they're just peeking through the cone, gathering the crucial information of where everybody's positioned at, especially towards behind them, because that's where they're most susceptible to getting tagged up and jumped on from another team. But you can see the replay. That's Yapko who goes down, pings and mix and find another crucial elimination towards the end game.
Quick double pickaxe in. Tayson Benno now, just like Cammy and Seti, are choosing to play it a bit more patiently. Watch what duos rotate through, see if they can kind of follow behind one. It opens up the opportunity for free tags, but also just to follow the builds as they continue to rotate. But you can see Marco's ready as he's looking behind, making sure nobody is inside of his tarp. And now the grapple blade comes through, and you're kind of just rolling a dice here, hoping that nobody lands a sniper shot on you. And it looks like for Tayson and Venno, they've rolled a 6.
Man, perfect. Instead of settling for any position down low towards the low ground, it looks like they found an old base, gave themselves some elevation up this mountain, which gives them flexibility. If the zone goes up, they don't have to expend a ton of mats to make it there. And if it goes down, they can stagger themselves and jump on another team's builds and elevate themselves even higher.
150 above. It's good for now, but not enough for the rest of this match. You can see now there is a side of the zone that's opened up to the duos that have already positioned themselves where the zone pulled. But for the players down below in the water, in the crevices, all the pressure from above is just gonna get to them as iDrop finishes it off, picking up that last elimination. But the duos are still taking shots. Is it worth it to stay here, iDrop? You've already got a bit of loot. You've got to make a decision.
Yeah, can't get greedy here. We've seen that happen all too long. The extra shot comes in. The shields go out. 18 HP. Both of the shield fish being used, but the focus is going to continue. Fishy on the other side, a whole nother team, and even a third at the top said, I want to invite to this party. Marco and Vision Bro are going to be the ones pushing in, though. They're ready to end it. They said, hey, enough damage has been done. This is our chance for some free points.
A bit of time to breathe for iDrop now. Gonna pop the med kit. 8th zone has pulled right back south towards all the duos that barely made it in on the edge. So luckily for them, we won't have an incredibly long way to rotate. Trulex Chicho now back in the game. 134 above and on a good elevated position.
Hey, Their history says anything. They can be contested. They can have some rough games, and they can still win back-to-back games in a finals. But in this time, they only need to win just one. Bevy and Pablo, they were their opposition through most of the day before the drop spot did get switched up, but it doesn't seem like they're any healthier than they were before, falling down the Storm Surge threshold, but at least it's only 6. They just need any kind of shot to land on a player. Even a grapple blade onto another player will get them above the Storm Surge threshold.
No shield, 6 below, desperate for something to happen. The good thing is they do have materials to continue tarping, continue kind of putting themselves in that position where they don't have to go directly into a box and risk it all. And for other players who have a better position and have more freedom.
Yeah. Backside of zone, though. Nobody really has the front side, or at least not too much, over water just to get there. There might be a little pinch of land on their left side as they rotate, but it's not going to be much that you can really have a lot of confidence. Skabi and Briz still falling below the damage threshold, but with a crash pad and a well-placed shot, and they get to the front side of zone, this is their opportunity to look back. They have the floppers to get the heals and HP back on up, but it's the shields and the materials that they lack.
Chaos unfolds. The rotations drop down to the water. I hope you know how to swim because you're going to need to. Bevies with 5 HP now to work with. Has to pop the med kit. Is going to be forced to play back onto zone. But there's so many duos. He is not safe as now Pablo has been left alone.
Kovacs distracted him on the low ground. Skabi and Hariz just kind of bursted in that box, taking him down when he least suspected it. Pablo's just flopping around like a flopper on the low ground, just trying to survive. But another person breaking into the box. That Shaco's piece control goes on over, and Pablo goes down. Another run ended, and another team who leads it to the last game.
Camiseti close to second height. A layer which opens up opportunities to shoot down below, and the ones on height, it's Chap, it's Khan. They've been close to the victory royale throughout the day, but Veno and Tayson, they want height as well as they begin the battle.
It wouldn't be an FNCS without Veno and Tayson involved, and he narrowly escapes getting taken down by another player. Chap and Khan right above him. They're one of the higher placing duos through consistency so far on the day. Vision Bro up the top. He almost gets taken down by Veno. You gotta watch out for shots like this, but Takada, this might be the time. The high ground play. Veno and Tayson, Marco and Vision Bro for the high ground, and they're ready to put it all on the line in this moment. Nice shots. They get him weak, and they're trying to drop him down, and there goes the disengage. High ground has been secured by Veno and Tayson.
They have done it. The throne is theirs up above now. It's all about maintaining it. Apply that pressure to the duos on second height. The duos that can potentially contest them, but Cammy has to be careful as he has lost Seti. All that's left is one medkit now. Forced to play inside the zone.
Yeah, pages have been switched. It was Seti who was forced to clutch up in every single game so far, and now he gets a taste of what it feels like, but can he go big? We've seen him clutch up. We've even seen previews on the day as iDrop and Nebs just making their way through the zone.
iDrop, Nebs connected, close together, looking for more action as Veno begins to apply that pressure on the players that are looking for height, flying through the air, the grapple blades. I wonder how many medkits Tayson has, because if this comes to a heal off, you're going to need a lot.
Yep, either that or kind of drop down low at the perfect moment. Chap goes up, and he's ready to challenge at the end game, but he goes right back on down. Veno with a huge defensive play to save the day, especially on his IGL Tayson, who possibly has the medkits, and another elimination for Veno, and another one. Count him up, knock him down. He is going off.
Veno is on fire. Elim after Elim, 6 total Elims. Now Pink and Mixon crawling through the dirt. 3 medkits. They want to play a heal off, but with Nebs going up for height, getting cracked as well, Veno is not letting anybody touch Tayson right now. The next step is to drop down and continue the chaos below.
It's theirs for the taking, but Veno is going to stay up. It's Tayson who drops down low. No heal off. No problem. Veno and Tayson take it by force.
That is why they are the veterans that we know. Veno and Tayson securing the VR. They said, we don't need a heal off. We don't need med kits, going right for the eliminations and qualifying themselves to the grand finals.
I hear Prodigy Analytics in my ear right now. Another game going to the high ground team. And that's saying low ground was dominating these games, winning game after game. But now the switch up is high ground. And you're seeing it come to fruition with teams waiting until the perfect moment to overthrow their high ground opposition. Veno and Tayson, it was like clockwork. It's like they practiced all season long up until this point, and they make it work. And you got to give huge credit to Veno just going off in the end game. And this is what people know and love him for.
Look, I want to know what motivated Veno. A rough start to a glorious ending. They were locked in their element in the final moments of this match, not letting anybody come close to the high ground, making them look like they were playing a nice little ranked game, but that is a way to finish the match.
A huge sigh of relief for Veno. Now he gets to sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of the show. And since he's enjoying that show, a new spot towards Grand Glacier has just opened up if anybody wants to take it.
One match left throughout the day, but I want to see what just happened with all the chaos that just unfolded. So let's head back to Frankie, Levin, and Minnie.
Oh, Takata, you know what was motivating Veno, the chance to prove himself still as the best player in the world, because all those players were coming at the king on high ground and not a single one of them could take Veno down. And I think that's another thing that was motivating him, Levin. Every single time he took someone down, he was charged up and he just knew he had the game in the palm of his hand.
Absolutely. Look, it was literally just the game before. Minnie and I were sat here saying, yeah, maybe we got to give up on these guys winning a game. It just doesn't look like it's happening, but they took the opportunity so well. Such a tough endgame, and I think we saw that play a part in why there wasn't really a heal off. Some of those zone pulls, the first moving zone was across the pond, then it just kept pulling forward, and it was like a 90-degree angle, then it just kept pulling and pulling and pulling. Nobody had materials. The height take was perfectly timed from them. I mean, you know, it's just a big relief, I think, from everyone that we're going to get to see these guys in the grand finals.
Yeah, massive relief indeed, and a big relief for both those individuals who we know have such a big sort of amount of talent, if you like. They're a team that we spoke about at the beginning of the show. I mentioned them being a little bit disjointed, but this game was just anything but. It seemed like we had the prime version of both of these players happening all at once. This high take was absolutely perfect as well, both cranking up. Veno hitting a huge amount of damage right there onto the player just down below, able to make sure they can claim that high. And what I loved here from Veno, all these players are trying to make sure they could try and claim that height, try and get up into that position. He was just swatting them away. He was like, no, 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 it's not happening. You're not getting up here. This is our high ground. And we got to see a little bit of the OG Veno high ground plays.
Absolutely. It was almost, you know, perfect for them, right? You could see his mats were getting quite low there. Nobody really had materials. The zone just kept pulling further and south and south and south, and everyone was sort of running low, and he was just perfectly primed to take advantage of that. In the end, Tayson is all picking up the crucial limbs just to secure the game. Do you know what I'm saying? He wanted to get involved in the action. He didn't want to just see Veno do it all by himself. And I mean, it was really nicely done. It's the kind of game we've been wanting to see from them from quite a while. So to see them actually get a bit more aggressive and play for height, which isn't something that Tayson, you know, has liked to do a lot, right, in recent seasons and years. So, you know, there's clearly a bit of the Veno influence coming in there, right, where he's like, you know what, let's play height this game, and it works out.
Yeah, a key differentiator between Queasy and Tayson is that comfort and that desire to play a high ground versus low ground. But also, to be honest, looking at that end game, the inventory as well, because Tayson, I was thinking we're going to cut to him. He's going to have loads of refreshes, and then he had the small potion. And I was like, oh, okay, this could go wrong. And then obviously it went so right. But let's take a look now at the teams who are in contention for that final victory royale of the day. And of course, being in the 20 players, i.e. the top 25, and being in with a chance of getting through to tomorrow's upper bracket, because there's only 3 games in that upper bracket, mini minor. Who of these guys do you think is going to be taking it?
It's difficult to say, right? I mean, it's difficult to say because we just don't know how these players are gonna play. We have one more game left on the day. For the players that are just in and around that top 25 mark, it's not really gonna be the focus of the win right now. I feel like the win is long gone. You have to just make sure you get to the upper bracket tomorrow. Because if you don't know, if you're in that top 25 today, you get 2 chances at making the grand finals. 2 sessions, if you like, tomorrow of 3 games in each. Obviously, you want to get it done in the upper bracket tomorrow, but there's giving yourself that little bit of a safety net. For the teams that are really low down, though. Teams like 45th, 47th, around that maybe that little mark. Maybe we'll see those guys go over high. Maybe we'll see those guys maybe now take a stance. We saw it earlier. Our dead last team coming up all the way onto high ground in their first end game and taking home the win. It's not impossible here, Levin. It's just gonna you got to keep that in the back of your mind as to what you're gonna do as well for the rest of the day.
Absolutely, man. We've seen similar dynamics to this in previous sort of FNCS chapters where we've had semi-final formats where you're balancing consistency and people needing to win. But this one is almost a bit more dramatic, right? Back then it was like maybe you'd have like 6 or 7 teams trying to get the consistency, placements. Half the lobby is trying to get consistency placements. Half the lobby is just trying to win the game, right? Like it's a very, very interesting dynamic that I'd hate to have to try predict really how it goes. I don't really know. I think the casters will have a very fun time breaking it all down though.
Before we do go back to the casters, I want to ask you guys about Cammy and Seti, because in that last game, we saw that it was actually Cammy who was having to try and play for the end game. Unfortunately, it just wasn't going his way. Is the issue here, Minnie, the fact that the two of them are struggling to find those end games as a duo?
I think that could be down to it. Yeah, I think it's just difficult for them to try and find those consistently getting into that later phase of the game. We spoke about it earlier, getting into that sort of top 3, top 2. It's just not really quite happening for this team right now. If I'm honest, I'm not really worried about them, though. They're going to be qualifying to the grand final, surely, right? They'll be making some good end games tomorrow if they do end up getting there. But I said it earlier, why not go for it? Why not go for hype? Why not try and make yourself known in this end game? Because they've guaranteed themselves surely now a spot for tomorrow at the very least. Why not try and take hype? Why not try and go for a win here? It's definitely worth a shot.
Well, let's see if they do try and go for the win, because it is time for game number 5. So Takata and Jacob, take it away.
The time has come, the final game of the day, and the last chance for these teams to qualify directly to the FNCS Grand Finals next week. And Takata, I say it's been a pleasure. Yesterday we had Malabuka. Today we have Veno and Tayson denying a heal-off scenario. I can only wonder what's next.
I mean, it makes it so exciting, but the good news is, Jacob, you don't have to wait long. The battle bus is ready. Let's get right into the last match.
The moment we have all been waiting for here, the last game. Who is going to be able to make it through? We have a ton of fan favorites still in this lobby looking for that big win. And we have a lot of underdogs as well, ready to start their own story and their own journey to superstardom.
There's the last opportunity to qualify through a victory royale with that golden ticket. After this, in day 3 of the semifinals, it's through consistency. So duos like Cammy and Seti might be happy about that if they're unable to secure the VR. But you know, Jacob, you know how good it can feel to get that VR, get that win, and the golden ticket that comes with it.
Yep, with the new spot opening up at Grand Glacier, we've got no time being wasted having multiple teams trying to find some success here. Misha and Tini being one of them, Spinaldo and Chrono is going to be the other one. You can see him just looking around. They know somebody lands here, but this is the thing is they don't know exactly where these players are currently positioned at. And I'm not sure they know it's Misha and Tini either. The masters of disguise. It doesn't matter where they're hiding. They usually figure out a way to catch people off guard.
Making a good use of the shield breaker EMP to take out the vending machine. As now they continue to kind of be cautious here because they know that there is duos in the surrounding. So they can't. Well, you can never be too careful in those situations, and especially in ones like the one we're seeing here at Fencing Fields with 3 duos being contested. FR, Lupin, actually going to be taken down now. The 2v1, the danger levels increase as the pressure is on.
Just not the best look. Hot on the heels. Even with damage being traded off, they were just too much in the hole. But another team, Fury, said, hey, a finished fight. This is my chance to strike while the iron top. Players are weak, but you can see there's so much space, multiple exits. They can try to get out, but the shots are still finding Ricky. And that HP is going right out the window. And you see Curb, one is high ground, one is above and below ground. They're trying to take 2 different angles to figure out where these players are going to come from. And they even were able to sneak away the medallion as they push them off the vault and claim it as theirs.
Staying efficient, there's always something you can be doing, even if you're waiting for an opportunity to get into the vault, for your opponents to come close. You can see they're farming up wood, farming up brick, doing something, as there's always time to be efficient. Now that the vault has been secured, they're going to be able to secure that extra loot. But Nipsey, Marco, and Vision are going to be the ones that go down. Nipsey coming out on top with Jerdy. Good way to start off the engagement in Ritzy Rivera.
That's gotta be painful with how well you have been playing, especially in that last game. Up until the point Venno and Tayson took it down, but I saw it in the feed. They read my mind. I saw not go down. Vico and Pink have finally defended the forecast tower successfully. Kiro and Kudo get pushed off and pushed all the way back to the lobby. Could this be their game, Takada? This could be the biggest shot they have to win this game and advance directly to the grand finals.
I mean, they didn't even just eliminate Kiro and Kiduo. They have 4 elims, Jacob. There was 2 duos that felt their wrath so far. And we can see the first one here. It was actually right off the bat, basically, chased down by a crash pad. And now, next up, the engagement towards the forecast tower. It's looking bright for Pink and Vico in the last match of the day.
This could be their run. Don't want to say too much because they still have a ton of Fortnite to play out. 37 other teams need to go down. And just kind of quick reference reminder, 6th through 25th today will advance to tomorrow's upper bracket round 3. So obviously we talk about the win. That's what you're really fighting for. But plan B is get into that top 25 because then you get more chances to qualify to the grand finals versus going to the lower bracket and having to earn your fight back.
Exactly, in the lower bracket, it's only top 15 to qualify directly to the grand finals. Makes it quite a bit more difficult. You can take a look here, though, at Raxi, who was able to take out X-Sweeze. Not sure how healthy they're looking now, but for Mixon, back on his loot path, on his route, which concludes at this mountain that opens up the surrounding kind of POV vision onto the opponents rotating through, alongside the forecast tower. I mean, they are very set up for the rest of this match.
Yeah, they're only really looking for the win here because if you judge off the points, 25th place currently positioned at 86 points or so. Maybe a little bit more after that, but that's the threshold right now. So you got to imagine they're over 200 points sitting in first place. They have their upper bracket spot on lock, but that just means you have to go again tomorrow. They want to go ahead and give themselves a break, win it here, advance to the finals, and join 10 other teams to have a chance to call that so. But Skydoom and Shakos gets tagged up along the way, forced into the house. They're separated, and this is the chance to strike for Uguay and his duo.
Unable to build on the roof. You have to be careful. As Uguay, Tejino capitalizing on that information. But they have to be careful. This is the last opportunity today. The last shot. If you get eliminated, that's it. You are either on to day 3 uppers or lowers. As Sky Jump is going to be chasing Skavi here.
Yeah, luckily there is another team not too far off, so you're not going to move as hastily from point A to point B as you want. But you can see in the mini-map, they're going around that mountain. A lot of damage was done to that solo to kind of let him run away, especially at this stage in the game. If your point is to simply move up the leaderboard to have another try at uppers, sometimes eliminations are necessary, even though they're risky.
Let's take a quick look at how Sky Jump got to the situation he was in. Looks like right off the rip, they were forced into an engagement here, but quick little edit down is going to be all it takes for that elimination. Cammy and Seti now haven't... Well, I was going to say they haven't pulled the zone, but I mean, to be honest, it's as close as you want it to be. You can see making use of a very good edit for the crash pad to not go as high up and not open up as much of an opportunity for the opponents to take shots on you as you're flying through. But this could be very bad for Cammy, Jacob. All it takes is the one decision to walk into the tower, and that could be Cammy's demise.
I'm a little scared for him because feels like they left the chest. They left the loot here. Cammy's going straight up.
Okay.
This is gonna be it right here. Depending if a chest spawned towards the bottom, there might not necessarily be a reason to drop down there. Luckily, he caught it at the tail end, but the piece control goes on over. They take Cammy out like a light, and you see Seti immediately react, tries to grapple blade to safety. And then Misha and Teeny S strategies coming out and finding some success here onto Cammy. And that leaves pressure onto Seti. Options for Andalex and Sato to go ahead and camp the card if they want. Because taking Seti and Cammy out of the game or leaving one of them to solo wouldn't necessarily be a bad option.
Seti's game difficulty just changed to hard mode after losing his duo partner, now forced into a tough spot. Nebs and iDrop continuing with their engagement here, but ultimately it might just not be worth it. Looks like there's already loot that's been put on the ground, most likely from either a combat cache or some eliminations. I'm gonna lean towards the combat cache though, as now they recuperate that extra shield.
Swift and in a hurry. I don't know where they found this loot, but they definitely do pack a punch no matter who they're fighting. It has to be Lavish Lair, judging by the Mythic Frenzy, and he's wasting no time getting into the box, and just like that, you really see what that Mythic is made of. Ends the fight in the blink of an eye, along with the help of Khan, obviously, but it just goes to show, man, sometimes if you're not on the same page, all it takes is 1-2 seconds of not being on the same page to kind of end up in a fight just like that. And going up against a team as strong as they have been on the day, it's going to be lights out.
Pablo Bevy's feeling happy, having just picked up an elimination, recuperating a bit of materials. I mean, they're basically maxed out now. Even in the zone position they're in at the Ruined Reels, they're quite centered currently, so they really don't have much to worry about with the damage they just got. 64 players are up, 33 duos. It's gonna be stressful.
Definitely one of those games that is playing out a little bit quicker than some of the other games so far, but up it gets to a certain point and everybody gets stacked together. A lot of those aggressive plays will begin to slow down. As TD and Misha, they're the ones who claimed Grand Glacier for themselves since Veno and Tayson qualified and won a game. And you saw a couple teams move over in this direction thinking it is going to be a free, but it is actually not. Misha was able to get 2 eliminations up until this point. You see a little bit of the leaderboards. That is essentially the bubble. You see 24th at 88 points. They're down. So teams will be looking to maybe get around 90, 95 or so points, push that threshold upward, and at least get another chance to play tomorrow.
Looking back over at Andalix and Sato, they're in the same position as where they took out Cammy. So it looks like they do not want to let Seti pick up the reboot card. And I mean, with them being inside of zone and having an elimination, being on the uncongested side, they currently aren't really losing too much by waiting for this card, but it's just gonna make Seti's game that much more difficult.
Almost makes you wonder if they're still nearby in that location. You still kind of see them over there. And this is what I kind of thought would potentially happen, especially when you know it's a team like Seti and Cammy. You take one of them out, you don't have to rotate due to zone, allowing you to stay there. And you kind of get the luxury to camp the card and force a superstar team to play it out as a solo. And that's going to put a ton of pressure onto Seti to try to figure things out.
I don't like that Seti has a crash pad in his hand here, as it makes me think he's gonna do the Flowberry crash pad rotate right onto Cammy's card, but he might come out with a little surprise. The same surprise that Cammy had. Oh, this is not looking good, Jacob.
Anything could happen. He still has the grapple blade, he has the fizz, he has one more crash pad. But he has Andalex, boxed him up. Seti's trying to fight back. He gets a player weak and even a knock, but it's not going to be enough. Almost goes back to back, taking down Andalex as well, but it's just not enough. The numbers game, and Seti and Cammy, just like that, are out of this game.
What a tragic way to end your last match. But look, Jacob, if there's a duo I'm not too worried about when they're put up against a consistency qualification, it's Cammy and Seti. Moving on to day 3, all they'll have to do is play consistent. I'm quite confident that they'll be able to do so.
Yeah, they started this game in about 11th place, 180 points. You got to imagine that's way more than enough for that to hold on. But Fury and Curb spot out Trulex and Chicho on the other side. It's about time for those weapon caches to start appearing, so we're going to see a lot of close range combat fights along the map, especially along the sides of the map, just like this.
Both duos now kind of just looking at each other. No shots have been taken yet. I mean, Fury and Curb are not going to just stay in that wood box for a long time, I'd assume, or hope so at least. So we'll see what ends up happening. Building up a little bit more vision, bit more safety. Chicho and Trulex, though, have had some rough matches leading up to this. Chicho trying to survive as a solo, but in the last game, they were close. Looking to see if they can make something happen in this last match.
Yeah, they need a big game for multiple reasons. Particularly, it's a win for the finals, like we've been saying, but they're just far down on the leaderboard. 36 plates, 46 points to start this game off. So they need a huge jump, and that usually comes in the form of winning the game or eliminations with maybe a top 5 or a top 10 with where they're currently positioned on the leaderboard. But Pablo and Bevis, game after game, it's looking better and better each and every time. Now they get the loot from Rift Island, and I feel like this is the best we've seen them almost all day long in terms of loot.
Now they can kind of stay up here as well, make a little base, refarming the materials that they use to build it on the Rift Island, and then use their current position to get damage on the players in the surrounding area, or even the duos that are boxing up the rifts down below, which they'll later use to rotate, just like Pink and Vico, who had a very strong start to this match with 4 eliminations, but now they're kind of, you know, relaxing a little bit, taking it slow. They have what they need. All that's left is the victory royale.
Yeah, and I would kind of guess that exactly. They're just staggering themselves. They have the Storm Surge, and then they have the Forecast Tower as well. So instead of going straight to where the next zone is, they're boxing up near one of these rifts. So that way, when this zone closes, the next one opens up. The next zone after that will be revealed and allow them to get to the zone, get to the proper position a little bit quicker rather than they would act hastily now.
That gives them such a benefit that it's the reason why they've been constantly battling the Forecast Tower against Kiro and Kiduo. As if you do get it, it really does pay off, especially if you have the position and the loot that they do right now. Snazy and Podesai now close to eyedrop and Nebs. Looks like there was a bit of an engagement going through, but nothing that ended in eliminations.
And that disengage from early on is just eyedrop and Nebs just trying to stay ahead of the game when it comes to the zone. Podesai and Snazy with the Flowberry Fizz probably eyeing up a rotation themselves. They look towards the top. That's not the way of the zone, but they know somebody's up there. That's the thing, and you see it in the minimap. That is going to be confirmed. They're just trying to watch out for when they do make this rotation. It's the teams that do have the elevation that will get those line of sights, and that'll be the most threatening in terms of receiving shots from.
Now that eyedrop and Nevs have gone further with the rotation, it opened up the freedom for Podesai and Snazy to do the same without being at risk of losing a lot of shield. For Topco and Mahi, though, they're a little bit out of the zone, and they do have some duos getting closer and closer to them, but they will try and use a Flowberry Crash Pad. Actually bouncing off a build, though, so they don't go too high up. As now they're getting closer and closer to the edge, but the duos based up are going to be the ones taking those shots.
Yeah, that mistake might have been a little bit of a saving grace as well, because you got to imagine with all the teams boxed up near them, how many shots they likely would have received getting into the same position here. So they're able to bypass a lot of aggressive teams looking for Storm Surge themselves, and it isn't really going to be into the next zone. Maybe the one after that, Storm Surge is going to be active in this game, but a lot of duos have to prepare for it because we've seen them get caught off guard and not really able to take control of their game, as Mahi trying to line up a cheeky shot, playing defensive with his teammate, but he gets tagged up nonetheless.
Pablo Bevis still on the Rift Island, kind of with the freedom to take shots at these players, but quickly enough, 6th zone is up, it's pulled away, and now these players are all going to have to continue with the rotations, but CCB, quick headshot snipe, and that's a huge refresh.
Yeah, it wasn't just a knock. You know he's out, so you know also his duo is nowhere near in sight. Easy cleanup, easy loot. It's about making it to the next stage of the game, which is the zone. You see the med kits. They're just trying to use whatever they can out of them, leave nothing behind for another team to pick up and potentially win with. Possibly change the tides, but this is where everybody's going to rotate on over. And you got to imagine Pink and Vico, the storyline for them, the forecast tower, the rift, and I don't necessarily see them boxed up there on that side anymore. So probably already making their rotation just along with everybody else in the lobby. But it's CZB and Nathan Takata that are probably the slowest ones to rotate on over. So they're probably trying to look for a gap that they can use for their advantage.
Exactly. There's pros and cons to it. There's going to be more players boxed up taking shots at them, but at the same time, there's also going to be players in front of them who have already done that rotation, and the focus is almost on them, and they can even recycle the builds that have already been placed. Ryzen Sky Jump now 751 above, not a duo that needs to deal damage, and not even a duo that needs to move. Already have a metal base inside of the zone. Now it's all about maybe even just finding some eliminations on the duos that are rotating in that aren't too healthy or even are coming in from the zone.
Yep. Pink and Vico finally on board. They made that rotation on over from Rift Island. Didn't make it all the way into the zone. And if anybody knows, and I've seen this strategy, it's kind of hard to follow, but if you know a team like Pink and Vico do have that forecast tower, you have teams that will tend to follow their rotation, not necessarily try to engage, but that way it makes it easier for them to rotate as well. If any team has note of either Pink or Vico or any other teams with the forecast tower, that would be a viable strategy at this point.
Incredibly viable, especially, you know, the benefit of being in set lobbies and knowing which duos tend to fight for these forecast towers. If you see them later on in the match, you say, you know something I don't. I'm gonna be following you, but Shimoki is actually gonna be quickly changing positions here at 13 below, now in a more congested side with more options to do damage, as it's exactly what he needs to do.
13 below, 27. Back to 13, up and down they go on the Storm Surge leaderboard. Wheat's there by himself, separated from his duo Shimoki, but that gives him more lines of sight, more ground to cover, and now they're attacking from two different angles. Wheat takes a ton of damage from Storm Surge and trading shots. Pink and Vico nearby as well. They're going to act as the gatekeepers if any of these teams get just a little too close to them on that edge of zone.
Vico and Pink was trying to see if they knew that Wheat was a solo in that moment, but these aren't times where you want to make aggressive plays. When Storm Surge is like this, all the duos in the lobby are kind of waiting for that moment to strike and start taking shots on who needs damage. Shimoki and Wheat, luckily enough, were able to get 45 above, and it has not changed since, so they're currently holding on.
They don't have any heals, so it's almost mandatory that they stay above the damage threshold to keep control over their own game. Pings and Mixin just rotating 258 above the damage threshold. You can see they're going towards the east. They know a lot of teams have the same line of sight as they do, making this rotation on over. So they're trying to take it step by step before they finally make their way in. Have to be careful though, because they are on the edge of a mountain. A team could box up right below. But I think with the multiple opportunities they have right in front of them to shoot some shots, get even higher above the threshold. Even Stan sneaking through with the bush, but he's going down to Surge. One more tick is all he could really take before he goes down altogether. I think that was him you heard.
Yeah, I definitely heard that. You can see has been eliminated. Ping Mixin though, looking healthy, 117 above, and now the pressure is on the duo close to them. This could be an opportunity for a pre-edit. It's exactly what's about to go down as Ping heads right into the action, but there's more duos in the surrounding area. So much chaos. This is not where you want to be.
Yeah, what looked like a great position now has turned on them. They're now the focus when they were just trying to join the party. Multiple teams from high ground, from low ground. A lot of these builds are being expended here, and their chances for high ground are slowly but surely slipping out of their hands. Finally, these stabilize momentarily, but it's only for a quick moment as that duo ran up into their box. You see the sneaky plays trying to come through, not able to get the edit, and they saw that one coming since the missed edit came through. But luckily enough, everybody now has to rotate, so they live to fight another day.
All the duos grapple blading through. Now, this 8th zone makes it very difficult for the players that are on the edge, especially up north. 55 above, but Pink and Vico, 6 elims heading into 8th zone, almost 1,000 above the threshold. If they keep this momentum up, Jacob, we could see them securing a golden ticket.
Yeah, we saw them get elims in the early game to make it to this point. and you're seeing how they were able to find that knock onto Shimoki, and immediately they don't get greedy for it. They find another one on the Monier, back to back, and those are two separate duos. So there's a couple solos running around this lobby now.
Getting back to 200 effective shield and HP. They've even pulled the 9th zone, or maybe even just rotated early. It's heading right back towards them. Are they going to stay ahead? They have the materials to do so, as now all these players who are up above are going to have to begin the rotation.
I will say, for everybody playing here in this end game, it's a little bit relaxing, almost a sigh of relief that there's not a lot of mountainous ranges on this side of the map where you have to go through a roller coaster. But iDrops is going through a roller coaster of his own, a roller coaster of emotions as he gets dropped, leaving a lot onto Nebs. You see the floppers being passed around, but he doesn't have time to grab them just yet. The shots are still firing through, and the blessing is the zone moving. So now that he is going to be left as a solo, at least he's no longer the focus of the lobby.
Buckle up. Nebs now has to continue without a duo partner. Not able to secure his grapple blade onto the builds that he wants. Just 32 above as well. Although he is going to be able to make it ahead. The issue is he has to do damage, but he does have the shields and materials to support him.
Yep, iDrops clutch in week 2, and now it's his time to clutch and advance into the grand finals. Ping and Mixin using what little Flowberry they do have left to try to get to the front side of the zone and jumping over all those teams on that mid layer. It almost looks like they're playing a box fight just to make their way across the map to find some safety on the front side of the zone.
Making sure to refarm trees, rocks, anything in their sight. Even in previous builds now, zone continues moving. Not a duo fully claimed height yet, but it looks like Vico and Pink are gonna stay down below in the dirt as now his duo partner has gone down. Vico has to make the decision. Does he Pink pick up?
This could be a pivotal decision. Every single team today that has won a game has done it through high ground. Pink and Vico are looking to flip the script. The revive is going to come through and a second chance at life here in this game. And this is what we called the one. They got the forecast tower. Early eliminations. They set themselves up right, but they have to go through teams like this. Pablo and Bebies, they have the high ground, and they're continuing the trend if they can hold on to it.
It's all about maintaining it, as Pink now is going to be the one that's up. Vico has gone down. They've traded positions as the Flowberry Fizz comes through, recuperating that shield that was lost, but with just 53 builds, Pink is going to have to make something insane happen.
He's still receiving the effects of the forecast tower as well. It isn't much, but at least it's something that he can hold on to try to plan ahead. Adelex and Sato, better late than never. High ground's going to be taken. Bevies and Pablo are receiving so much pressure. They're just trying to force him down so they don't have to worry about it later on in this game. And you see them building up even more towards the backside of the zone. They don't want to get snuck, but they get chopped down instead. They get forced all the way down low to the low ground.
It's back to Pablo and Bevies once again, kings of the high ground. All they need to do is maintain it, but with only 10 builds now, all wood. The pressure continues as the opponents keep building up.
You gotta be careful though. No grapple blade means you have to pop the Fizz at the perfect time. Bevies gets taken down. CZB is gonna be one of the only ones left ready to contest Pablo, but he looks like he could be a solo as well. He's doing all he can. Medkit's gonna come out, trying to give himself HP, but everything comes crashing down. He goes to the backside of the zone to hold on. This is where it gets crucial because he has no build, so it's gonna be the Flowberry Fizz as his only option to get down.
Flowberry Fizz activated, no longer going to take fall damage. Next medkit is popped for Chicho, playing as a solo, closer to the lower layers here, staying ahead of zone, but no materials.
This is gonna get really dicey for Chicho as he's bobbing in and out of the builds, ends up in a 1v against Teeny, but he gets taken down. Misha falls as well. Solo after solo is getting stuck by themselves, Skyjump included, but Skyjump at least gets the elimination.
Yapko still has his duo partner up. Synergy, chemistry is what's needed now as Pablo attempting to get a medkit off. He's going to be unable to. It's canceled by Yapko, and he secures the elimination.
3 teams left, and only one of them is a full duo. That's Yapko and Blaha as they take down Skyjump as well. Blaha is going to go down. 1v1 situation. Pink, he has to take him out, and he doesn't. Pink clutches big. He takes the game in his own hands. 8 elimination, no heal off, no problem. Welcome to the grand finals.
from out of nowhere, Pink flies in, securing the last shot to take his spot in the grand finals, playing as a solo. Vico got eliminated and Pink finished it off.
I know there was a script somewhere. I didn't read it before the game, but I guarantee you that script word for word says the comeback from Vico and Pink is real. And you gotta give Pink all the credit in the world as a solo, getting hunted. He did it game after game and he held strong mentally to come out on top on the final game of the day. And these are the crucial moments. 1 HP in a dream. And let me tell you, that man dreams big.
What a way to finish it off. That 1 HP elimination allowed him to get 3 extra med kits, which permitted him to play inside the zone, heal up, and strike right when there was only 1 player left, and that is what got him the VR.
I can almost imagine the conversations there coming out from Vico, who is eliminated. You have to go in. You have to get the elimination because those medkits were used just to get Pink that far. But man, that was one game, and congratulations to Pink and Vico one more time.
I could have not asked for a better way to end the day off, but that's it from me and Jacob today. Let's head right back to the 3 beautiful phrases, Frankie, Levin, and Minnie.
Thank you so much, Takata and Jacob here. What fantastic casting from you. Can't wait to hear you guys back on the commentary tomorrow. Right now, though, we've got to talk about the boys, Pink and Vico. They finally pulled off their perfect game plan. They got that forecast tower. They were absolutely sorted for Surge early game with those 4 eliminations. And finally, Pink was able to pull off the solo clutch, Levin.
I mean, what a story for them, right? It is not something you expect to see. And I mean, Frankie, yesterday when we were talking about the way we typically see people win games, we were saying you typically see hype teams, you see heel-offs, but our favorite one is the solo clutch, and we've not had many of them. Pink finally delivering the goods, Mini, and what a way to do it. We always talk about 1 HP in a dream. Like that, this guy's a serious dream here.
Yeah, that is a big, big, big dream. And it was almost a nightmare for this duo when we saw Pink going down at this later stage of the game. I thought, oh no, what's going on here? Vico with a little clutch revive in that instance and just kept them going. That just highlights the exact way that these guys have been playing all weekend. They haven't been able to pick up a victory until right now, of course, but it's just that relentlessness, that keeping on going mentality, that never giving up. And we can see it right here just in all its glory. Pink, even at this clutch moment, going back inside of the storm to actually pop that med kit, buy himself a little bit of extra time. And because of all that congestion, all that chaos, if you like, on high ground, it was actually a 1v1 and actually went down to a fight at the end. And those guys could actually benefit from all of that madness that was going on from all the teams down below that were trying to take home the win.
They are the first duo that were not formed at the start of Chapter 5 to take a victory royale this weekend so far. I don't want to call them like an old school duo though, because actually they didn't form until the last chance major. So they're still kind of in a bit of a honeymoon phase, but the phase that's working out so well for them. And let's face it, with a game that strong, even if they hadn't got the victory royale mini minor, they are a team we would have seen in the grand final, surely.
Yeah, for sure. They're 2 incredibly talented players that we've seen develop, not just throughout this whole season, but even throughout this whole weekend. We've seen their strategies change a little bit. It's often that forecast tower fight that is their downfall, so it's good to see that they were able to win that, of course, win that in that last game, and of course get that forecast, which we saw, of course, taking that the front side of zone in that first moving. Really, really nice little mechanics to their gameplay. For me, it's just about whether they can continue that into grand finals. How can they refine some of the mistakes that they made this weekend to make sure they don't make them come next weekend? Lots of potential though. Really exciting duo.
Well, they've got themselves a free pass tomorrow. They don't need to play any more games. I'm sure they're going to be practicing. They don't have to practice all night. Maybe they'll give themselves a little bit of a breather, Levin, because as you were saying earlier, they were up at all hours practicing and it's clearly paid off. Let's see who else the practice paid off for though with our leaderboard. Don't forget our standings 1 to 5. They've already gone through to the grand finals because they got themselves a tasty victory royale and therefore a golden ticket. So we're looking at numbers 6 to 25. These are the duos that you will see playing in the final upper bracket lobby tomorrow. They'll play 3 games. From there, we will be seeing, I just want to double check, absolutely make sure that I give you the right information. We're going to see 25 duos go through, and then 15 spots will remain in our final 3 matches in the lower bracket. So everyone who goes through to the upper bracket today, they have got 6 games tomorrow potentially, unless they manage to do it in the first 3. And it's really, really exciting to see. I mean, Japco and Blacker, they came so close just now, boys, to actually getting themselves a golden ticket. And Wheat and Shimoki, Mini Miner, another duo who put up some impressive performances today.
Yeah, they have, and this is a duo that started the season off really, really well. I think they won back-to-back cash cups at the beginning of the season, and we were like, you know what, this is a duo that we can look out for come to the grand finals. Weren't able to quite manage to get a victory royale today, but I'm sure we'll be able to see those perform in the upper bracket tomorrow. One team I saw on there as well, Truelets and Chicho, those guys had a really nice clutch in that last game to try and push their way into that top 25, although it wasn't quite to be. I think it was 27-28 if I remember rightly there. So really unfortunate stuff for those guys. They're really going to have to clutch up in that lower bracket. So for all those teams in that top 25, they've got 2 chances now, 6 games to make it to grand finals.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Because we say 2 chances, right? It's because it's the 2 sessions, but it's still so little games in totality, right? Just the 6. So, you know, hopefully we see some of those teams be able to make it through. But yeah, it's crunch time of the season now.
Yeah, 3-game lobbies. Do you think, Levin, that's going to impact the way that these guys play the game?
I mean, to some extent, yes, but not really. I mean, the big difference is just there's not that room for error, right? We always talk about, you know, playing the tournament, playing the 6 games. You know, you have a rough start. You know, it doesn't have to matter depending on how you react to it. No, I don't know about no rough starts. You gotta make them games count.
Yeah, and I'm intrigued to see how those off-spawn battles go on. Of course, we're going to have some new names potentially coming through the upper bracket tomorrow as well, or the lower bracket, as you say, into the upper bracket for tomorrow. So I'm excited to see what those guys can bring to the party and see how the whole game landscape changes, because it will be different, I'm sure, but teams will just try and do more of the same if they're having some success. Because, of course, you need to place top 25. So for a lot of the top teams, should be straightforward, should be business as usual, just in a little bit shorter amount of time.
Might be different, but it's going to be no less exciting. So make sure you do not miss out on the final 6 games of the European semi-finals. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow. Don't forget, North America's competition is coming up later tonight. Finally, though, feast your eyes on this fit, and we'll see you on the battle bus.
That's my show. Burn up and see the gold. I'm gonna make it known. Peace.